Emma had everything she thought she needed to be happy. A successful marketing executive in the heart of Manhattan, her days were filled with meetings, strategy sessions, and a calendar so full there was barely space to breathe. From the outside, she was thriving. But inside, Emma felt like she was slowly unraveling. Each night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with unfinished tasks, hypothetical disasters, and the echo of her own unfulfilled questions. Despite her achievements, a quiet ache lingered, an unshakable restlessness that no promotion, no vacation, no self-help book could cure. This story, though fictional, is profoundly familiar. It is the story of millions in our modern world where the pace of life accelerates with every ping, every swipe, every expectation we place upon ourselves. The burden of productivity, the pressure to perform, the constant barrage of digital noise all converge into a background hum of anxiety that rarely goes silent. We are connected to everything, and yet often feel disconnected from ourselves. We chase success while feeling like imposters. We pursue happiness as if it were a distant finish line, always a little further ahead. And when we finally pause, we find that beneath the busyness is something more unsettling, a fear of stillness. Because in stillness, we might hear what we've been avoiding. In stillness, the noise falls away and the truth comes forward. But what if this stillness is not something to fear, but a doorway? What if the quiet we dread is not empty at all, but full of something ancient, gentle, and wise? This is where the teachings of Buddhism, and in particular, the practice of Zen, offer a light in the darkness, not as a doctrine to believe in, but as an invitation to see clearly, to sit with ourselves, to rest not in distraction or escape, but in awareness. Zen does not promise that your problems will vanish or that you will become invulnerable to suffering. Instead, it gently guides you into the heart of your experience. It shows you how to stop running, how to meet life as it is, with presence. And in doing so, it reveals a profound and liberating truth. Peace is not found by fixing the world outside, but by returning to the stillness within. This journey is not about transcending your humanity, it is about embodying it fully, moment by moment. Through the ancient, grounded wisdom of Zen meditation, we'll explore what it means to come home to yourself, not in some distant future, but here, now, in this breath. This is not a technique. It is not a performance. It is a remembering. So if you, like Emma, are tired not just in your body, but in your soul, this is for you. If you feel like something essential has been forgotten in the rush of daily life, this is for you. Let this be your invitation to pause, to soften, to rest in awareness. The journey begins here, from clenched fists to open palms, meeting the storm within. It often begins without warning, a tightening in the chest, a racing thought that multiplies into a swarm, the sense that something is wrong, even when everything seems fine. Anxiety. For many, it is a familiar companion. It shows up in the stillness of night, in the silence between conversations, in the moments when we pause just long enough to hear our own thoughts. But where does it come from? And more importantly, why does it stay? To begin any journey toward inner peace, we must first look honestly at our suffering, not with judgment, but with curiosity. In Buddhism, suffering is not a flaw to be fixed, but a doorway to be understood. The Buddha's first noble truth is simple and compassionate in its clarity. There is suffering. It is universal. And anxiety, in its many forms, is one of its modern faces. In our world today, anxiety thrives because our culture feeds it. We are conditioned to believe that safety lies in control of our future, our image, our outcomes. We check our phones obsessively, not just out of habit, but because they promise us connection, predictability, a sense of control in an unpredictable world. Yet the more we cling to control, the more fragile we become. The more we chase certainty, the more anxious we grow in the face of life's inevitable uncertainty. But Buddhism invites us to look deeper, not at the symptoms, but at the roots. At the heart of anxiety lies attachment. The mind, in its habitual grasping, attaches itself to stories, expectations, identities. It says, I must be successful, or I must not fail, or they must like me, or this must not happen. And when life inevitably does not comply, suffering arises. The mind resists what is and longs for what is not. In this gap between reality and expectation, anxiety is born. The Buddha used a powerful metaphor to explain this. Imagine being struck by an arrow. It hurts. But then imagine being struck again, this time by a second arrow of our own making. The first arrow is the event, the job loss, the illness, the unknown. The second arrow is the mental reaction, the worry, the catastrophizing, the spinning narratives. While we cannot always avoid the first arrow, we often have a choice in the second. This is not to say that anxiety is merely a matter of mindset. It is real. It lives in the body, floods the nervous system, hijacks the breath. But Buddhism does not tell us to deny our experience. It teaches us how to relate to it differently, with awareness, with kindness, with wisdom. One of the earliest Buddhist parables illustrates this shift beautifully. A man is walking through the forest at dusk when he spots what looks like a snake coiled on the path ahead. Fear seizes him. He freezes, heart pounding, imagining the danger. But as the light changes and his eyes adjust, he sees the snake was never a snake at all. It was a rope. The fear was real. The danger was not. This story speaks to the heart of anxiety. Much of what we fear is not the present moment itself, but the imagined future we've projected onto it. The mind constructs snakes out of ropes, problems that have not yet occurred, scenarios that may never come to pass. The body responds as if they're already happening. And so we live in a state of tension, not because the world is always unsafe, but because we're constantly bracing for it to be. Zen meditation does not offer an escape from this. Fear, it offers a way through. It invites us to see the rope clearly, to sit with the discomfort and watch it without feeding it, to return again and again to the breath, to the body, to this moment where anxiety cannot survive without our permission. But why is it so hard to do? Because the modern mind is not trained to rest. It is trained to evaluate, compare, prepare, fix. From a young age, we are taught to avoid discomfort and pursue pleasure, to seek distraction when uneasy. We scroll instead of sit. We plan instead of breathe. And so, we become strangers to our own inner world. We fear what we have not learned to understand. The good news is that awareness can be trained. Just as the body becomes strong through repetition, the mind becomes still through practice. And the first step is not complicated. It is simply to notice, to pause and say, "Ah, this is anxiety." Not, "I am broken," or "I need to make this go away," but simply, "This is what is arising right now." In that simple act of noticing, something shifts. The identification loosens. The second arrow falls to the ground. This shift from identification to observation is one of the most radical and healing moves we can make. In Buddhist psychology, the term vitakka vichara describes the mind's initial thought and its continued development. Most of our anxiety is vichara, spinning wheel of elaboration. But when we rest in awareness, we catch the first vitakka. We become witnesses, not prisoners, of our thoughts. Imagine your anxious thoughts as clouds. Without awareness, you are inside the storm, tossed, overwhelmed, soaked. But with awareness, you become the sky. The clouds pass through you, but they do not define you. They are weather, not essence. This is not poetic metaphor, it is a living practice. And it begins with very small choices. Right now, as you hear these words, bring your attention to your breath, not to control it, not to improve it, just to feel it. Let your chest rise and fall. Notice where your body holds tension. Relax your jaw, unclench your fists. Let the next breath be softer than the last. You are not your anxious thoughts. You are the awareness that sees them come and go. The mind will resist. It will say, "This is not enough." But this is not a quick fix. It is a path. And like any path, it is walked step by step. There is no need to strive. The journey is not to a distant place, but back to yourself. You may still wonder, what if the anxiety is too strong? What if it overwhelms? Then meet it with compassion. The Buddha taught that suffering does not soften through resistance, but through understanding. When fear arises, place your hand on your heart. Say silently, "This is hard, and I am doing the best I can." You are not weak for feeling fear. You are human, and in your willingness to turn toward your fear instead of away, there is immense courage. The way out of anxiety is not to destroy it, but to disarm it, to see through its illusions, to stop feeding the stories and return to the breath. Again and again, no matter how many times the mind wanders, the path is always one breath away. And so we begin, not with grand resolutions, but with small kindnesses, with awareness, with stillness, with presence. You may find, over time, that the anxious mind loses some of its grip, that you no longer believe every fearful thought, that you begin to trust in the space between thoughts, a space that is open, silent, and free. This space is not far, it is here, closer than your heartbeat. Beneath the noise, beyond the storm, it is waiting. You do not need to fix yourself to find peace. You need only to return to yourself. And the first step is simply this: notice. Let the noticing become your refuge. Let it be your soft place to land, not a shield from life, but a way to be fully alive within it. In the next part of our journey, we will go deeper into the nature of the mind itself. We will learn how it works, why it wanders, and how to gently lead it back, again and again, to the quiet clarity that has always been yours. The rope was never a snake, and you were never broken. You were only looking through anxious eyes. Let's learn to see clearly. Together, becoming the observer, rediscovering the true nature of thought. We spend most of our lives inside our minds, yet very few of us truly understand how they work. We are entangled in a constant stream of thoughts, jumping from one concern to another, caught in memories of the past and projections of the future. It is as if we are being carried along by a river, pulled by currents we do not control and cannot name. But what if we could learn to step out of the river? What if we could stand on the shore and simply watch? In Zen Buddhism, the mind is often compared to a wild monkey, restless, reactive, leaping from one branch to the next without pause. This monkey mind is not a sign of personal failure. It is simply the nature of an untrained mind. And for most people, it is the default state. Yet it is not the only possibility. Just as a wild horse can be gently tamed, the mind, too, can be trained not by force or suppression, but by deep, compassionate understanding. Let us begin by asking a question that is rarely asked in the busyness of daily life. What is the mind? The Buddha never offered a rigid definition. Instead, he invited us to observe. He pointed us not toward abstract theories, but toward direct experience. When we sit in stillness and turn inward, what do we find? We find that thoughts arise, seemingly out of nowhere. One moment we are present, the next we are imagining a conversation that hasn't happened, replaying a mistake, or worrying about tomorrow's weather. The mind generates thought after thought, like clouds passing across a vast sky. And most of the time, we follow these thoughts unquestioningly, believing them, reacting to them, allowing them to shape our emotions and actions. But here is a profound truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that sees them. This distinction between thought and awareness is at the very heart of Buddhist insight. Thoughts are events. They come and go. They arise and pass away. But awareness remains. Awareness is not a thought. It is the space in which all thoughts arise. It is the silent witness. This may sound abstract at first, but consider a simple moment. You are sitting, perhaps drinking tea, and a thought arises. I forgot to send that email. That thought may trigger a cascade of anxiety. You may suddenly feel pressure in your chest, a sense of urgency, guilt, fear. But if, in that moment, you are aware, if you pause and say to yourself, "Ah, a thought has arisen," then something remarkable happens. You are no longer consumed by the thought. You are watching it. This is the beginning of freedom. The problem is not that we have thoughts. The problem is that we identify with them. We say, "This is me." We believe the voice in our heads is who we are, but the voice is just the surface. Beneath it is a stillness that does not speak in words, but in presence. Buddhist teacher Ajahn Chah once said, "You see the mind moving this way and that, always thinking, always creating ideas. But these are just shadows. They are not the real thing. The mind is like still water. Thoughts are like ripples on its surface. To understand the mind, we must learn to look beyond the ripples. We must train ourselves to see the water itself. But how do we do this? The first step is observation. In Buddhist practice, this is called mindfulness, the clear, non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. When we are mindful, we don't try to stop the thoughts. We don't chase them or push them away. We simply watch. We notice the beginning of a thought, its movement, its passing. Over time, this simple act of watching builds a new relationship with the mind. We begin to see patterns. We notice how some thoughts return again and again, stories about failure, fear, inadequacy. We see how the mind creates a sense of self from memory, desire, and imagination. We begin to understand that much of our suffering is not caused by life itself, but by the way the mind interprets life. This realization can be both liberating and unsettling. If we are not our thoughts, then who are we? If the mind is not solid, then what is real? Zen answers not with concepts, but with silence, with presence, with a return to what is here and now. Imagine a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, the water remains cloudy. But if you set it down and let it be, the sediment slowly settles. Clarity returns. This is what happens when we sit in meditation. We allow the mind to settle, and in that stillness, we begin to see clearly. One Zen story tells of a student who asked the master, "How can I find peace?" The master replied, "You cannot find peace by adding to your mind. You find peace by letting go of what is not yours." The student was confused. "What do you mean, what is not mine?" The master smiled. "Most of your thoughts are not truly yours. They are habits, echoes of conditioning, voices you have inherited from others. Let them go. What remains is peace." This is not about rejecting the mind. The mind is a beautiful instrument. It allows us to think, plan, imagine, create. But it is not the master, it is the servant. When the servant believes it is the master, there is chaos. When the true master awareness takes its seat, the servant becomes useful, even wise. You do not need to fight your mind. You only need to see it clearly. Try this now. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice your breath. Notice your thoughts. Don't change anything. Just watch. Are the thoughts fast or slow? Are they images or words? Are they urgent or subtle? Just observe, like a scientist, like a friend. This simple act of noticing is revolutionary. In a world that tells you to do more, be more, think faster, the choice to simply observe is radical. It is also deeply healing. You may begin to notice how thoughts influence emotions, how certain beliefs trigger anxiety, how memories come and go. And through this noticing, you begin to disidentify. You stop being the storm and become the sky. There is one more important lesson here. The mind is impermanent. This is one of the core insights of Buddhism. Everything that arises will pass. No thought lasts forever. No emotion is permanent. This includes anxiety, fear, even despair. They may visit, but they do not stay. The more we cling, the longer they linger. The more we observe, the more gently they dissolve. So we train ourselves to stay present, to become the observer, not cold or distant, but lovingly aware. Like watching a child play in a field, we let the mind do what it does, but we no longer believe its every word. We listen, but we choose which voices to trust. Over time, a spaciousness emerges, a quiet confidence. We begin to trust awareness itself. We find that we don't need to fix every thought, answer every question, solve every emotion. We can simply be. And in that being, we find peace. There is a Zen saying, "When the mind is still, the universe surrenders." Stillness is not about stopping life. It is about meeting life without being consumed by it. It is about seeing clearly, acting wisely, and resting in the deep awareness that holds it all. This is not an idea to believe in. It is an experience to return to, breath by breath. As we continue our journey, we will explore how this awareness can become a steady presence in daily life, how it can guide us through stress, confusion, and emotional storms. But for now, let this be your beginning. You are not your thoughts. You are not your worries. You are the sky, and everything else is weather. Rest in that knowing. Rest in awareness. Sitting with simplicity, the art of just being. In a world that constantly urges us to do more, be more, achieve more, there is something both radical and restorative about the act of simply sitting. No agenda, no effort to improve, just being fully present with what is. This, in its essence, is Zen meditation. Deceptively simple, profoundly transformative. Zen does not begin with philosophy. It begins with practice. While other traditions may emphasize scripture, belief, or ritual, Zen gently places a cushion on the floor and invites you to sit, not to escape the world, but to meet it directly, moment by moment, breath by breath. The posture is still, but the experience is alive. And in that stillness, something essential is remembered. Let us begin at the beginning with the basics. Posture, breath, attention, awareness. These are the foundations of Zazen, or seated meditation, the central practice of Zen. The word Zazen literally means seated Zen, but it is far more than just sitting on a cushion. It is a way of embodying presence, a way of remembering who you are beneath the noise. The posture is important not because it is sacred in itself, but because the body and mind are deeply interconnected. The traditional position is to sit cross-legged on a cushion, with the spine upright, the hands gently resting in the lap, and the chin slightly tucked. But the point is not perfection. You may sit in a chair, you may rest your back against a wall. What matters is alertness, balance, and a sense of dignity. You are not slouching into sleep, nor are you straining. You are simply awake, present. The breath is your anchor, not something to control, but something to feel. You bring your attention to the natural rhythm of your breathing, perhaps at the nostrils, perhaps in the rising and falling of the belly. You do not manipulate the breath. You rest in it, as it is. Breathing in, you know you are breathing in. Breathing out, you know you are breathing out. The mind will wander. That is not a problem. It is part of the practice. In fact, each time you notice your mind has drifted and gently bring it back to the breath, you are strengthening awareness. Like returning a child to the warmth of home, not with scolding, but with kindness. This is the gentle discipline of Zen meditation. Not forcing, not fixing, just returning, again and again, to this moment, to this breath, to this body, to this life. In time, you begin to notice a shift. The mind, once frantic, starts to slow. The breath deepens. The tension in the body begins to soften. And beneath it all, there is a spaciousness, a quiet that has always been there, waiting patiently beneath the surface noise. Zen teachers often speak of just sitting, not meditating with a goal, not trying to reach a special state, but simply sitting in open awareness. This may sound strange at first. What is the point of just sitting? The point is that there is no point, and in that, there is profound freedom. Most of our lives are lived in pursuit. We do something in order to get somewhere. We eat to feel satisfied. We work to earn money. We speak to be understood. Even in meditation, many of us bring this mentality. We sit to become calm, to gain insight, to fix ourselves. But Zen gently removes all this striving and invites us to sit with what is, not to get anywhere, but to be here. This is not passivity. It is the deepest form of engagement. When we stop chasing experiences and begin to turn toward experience itself, we touch reality, not our idea of it, but its living presence. In Zen, there is a famous story about a student who asks his master, "What is the essence of Zen?" The master replies, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student is puzzled. "But isn't that what everyone does?" The master answers, "Number. When they eat, their minds are elsewhere. When they sleep, they dream of tomorrow. That is not Zen." So, this story points to the simplicity and depth of the practice. Zen is not about special moments. It is about being fully present in the ordinary ones. Drinking tea, washing dishes, walking in silence. Each of these can be meditation if done with awareness. When you sit in Zazen, you are practicing this presence deliberately. You are training the mind to rest in the now, not to suppress thought, but to let it rise and fall like waves on the ocean. Not to avoid pain, but to meet it without flinching. Not to escape life, but to return to it awake, alive, and aware. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to change your experience begins to change, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Anxiety begins to lose its grip. The heart begins to open. You start to see clearly, not with the eyes of judgment or analysis, but with the soft gaze of presence. Zen meditation is not a technique. It is a way of being. This is why the most advanced teachings in Zen often sound like the simplest. A master may say, sit still, breathe, pay attention. There is no dogma here, no complicated philosophy, just direct experience, your own life as it is. But do not mistake simplicity for ease. To sit with yourself, without distraction, without escape, is an act of quiet courage. It means facing what arises: boredom, restlessness, discomfort, sadness. But in facing these things, you discover they are not as solid as they seemed. They arise and they pass. You remain, and in time, something soft and steady begins to grow within you. A confidence not rooted in control or success, but in presence. A peace that is not dependent on circumstances. A joy that arises from simply being alive. The beauty of Zen is that it asks for nothing special. No incense, no chanting, no robes. Just a body, a breath, a willingness to be present. You can begin now, right now. Find a quiet place. Sit in a way that feels both relaxed and alert. Let your hands rest naturally. Close your eyes or leave them slightly open, gazing softly downward. Bring your attention to your breath, not to change it, just to feel it. And when the mind wanders, as it will, gently bring it back, over and over, like returning home. Even 5 minutes a day can change your relationship with your mind, not by force, but by familiarity. You begin to know yourself beyond the constant chatter. You begin to trust the silence. You begin to rest in awareness. And slowly, the line between meditation and life begins to blur. You find yourself breathing more deeply while waiting in traffic, noticing the sensation of water on your hands as you wash the dishes, listening more fully in conversation, reacting less, responding more, living, not from habit, but from presence. This is Zen in its truest form, not a religion, not a belief, a return, a homecoming, a quiet revolution in the midst of everyday life. As the Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki once said, the most important thing is to find out what is the most important thing. And perhaps, as we continue on this journey, we will come to see that the most important thing is not far away. It is not hidden in books or retreats. It is here, in this breath, in this moment, in this being. Just sit, just breathe, just be. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how to bring this presence into everyday life, and not just on the cushion, but in the midst of work, relationships, and challenge. How to live from awareness, not reaction. How to make your entire life a meditation. One step, one breath at a time. The gentle revolution of noticing. There is a quiet power in the simple act of noticing. In a world where so much of our attention is fractured, pulled between screens, conversations, worries, and expectations, choosing to be aware, here and now, is both a radical and a healing gesture. It does not require special knowledge or grand effort. It requires only willingness, a willingness to turn toward your life, just as it is. In Zen, awareness is not something you add to yourself. It is something you uncover, something that has always been there beneath the layers of distraction and habit. Like a mirror that has gathered dust, it only needs to be gently wiped clean to reflect clearly once more. To practice awareness is to remember the present, to inhabit it fully, not as a concept, not as a performance, but as a lived experience. Let us begin with a simple understanding. Awareness is already present. You don't need to create it. You are aware when you feel the sun on your skin. You are aware when you notice the taste of tea on your tongue. You are aware when you hear your name spoken across a crowded room. The capacity for awareness is innate, but it is often overlooked, buried beneath layers of thought and distraction. The practice of awareness, or sati in Pali, is the heart of Buddhist meditation. It is often translated as mindfulness, but awareness is something deeper than technique. It is not just focusing on the breath or body, it is being awake to your experience, without resistance or grasping. When you are aware, you see clearly what is happening internally and externally, without immediately judging, reacting, or getting lost in it. You see the rising of a thought, the sensation of tension in the shoulders, the shift in breath, the flicker of emotion, and instead of being swept away, you simply notice. This may sound subtle, but it is revolutionary. Consider how much of your life is lived on autopilot. You brush your teeth while thinking about your to-do list. You eat lunch while scrolling through emails. You drive home but have no memory of the journey. You speak, but don't fully hear your own words. You listen, but only to reply. Your body is here, but your mind is elsewhere. Awareness brings you back to the movement of your hands, back to the rhythm of your breath, back to the taste of the apple in your mouth, back to the sound of the wind outside your window, back to the life that is unfolding in this moment and only in this moment. To begin practicing awareness, start with the body. The body is always in the present. While the mind races between past and future, the body never leaves the now. It is your anchor. Right now, pause and feel your body, not as an idea, but as sensation. Where is there warmth? Where is there coolness? Is there tightness, pressure, tingling, heaviness? Can you feel the contact of your feet with the floor, the weight of your hands, the gentle rising and falling of your chest? This is awareness. This is presence. You may begin to notice how often the mind resists what is happening in the body. How it says, "This tension shouldn't be here," or "I don't want to feel this." But awareness does not fight. It does not fix. It simply sees. And in this scene, something softens. There is a story of a monk who, during a meditation retreat, began experiencing intense anxiety. He went to the teacher and asked for help. The teacher said, "Each time anxiety arises, say to yourself, 'Ah, this too is welcome.'" The monk was surprised. "Even anxiety?" he asked. The teacher nodded. "Especially anxiety. This is the power of awareness. It includes everything. It does not divide life into good and bad, pleasant and unpleasant, worthy and unworthy. It holds all of it with curiosity and kindness." The poet Rumi wrote, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. Welcome and entertain them all." Awareness turns your inner world into a guest house. You no longer slam the door on fear. You no longer pretend anger isn't knocking. You open the door. You say, "I see you. I will not let you take over, but I will not ignore you either." And in this welcoming, the guests lose their power to haunt you. They become what they have always been: passing experiences. Clouds, not sky. Waves, not ocean. Of course, the mind will try to interfere. It will say, "This is boring," or "You're not doing it right," or "You should be thinking about tomorrow." That too is part of awareness. You notice the doubting voice. You smile. You return again and again. The breath can help. It is always with you, always moving, always now. You don't need to breathe more deeply. Just feel what is already happening. One breath, then another. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. That is enough. And when a thought arises, you can label it gently, thinking, then return. When a sound distracts you, hearing, then return. When an emotion stirs, feeling, then return. Not as a command, but as an invitation, a gentle reminder. You don't need to be anywhere else. This moment is enough. As you continue this practice, you may begin to notice something beautiful, a sense of space between stimulus and response, between thought and reaction, between you and the story. This space is where freedom lives. You begin to respond rather than react. You begin to notice your patterns before they take over. You catch yourself mid-sentence, mid-emotion, mid-habitat. In that pause, you have a choice. This is what Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh calls the miracle of mindfulness. You become aware of walking, and suddenly, you are no longer rushing. You are present, aware of the ground beneath your feet, the breeze on your skin, the aliveness of being. He writes, "Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet." This is awareness in motion, and it is available always, not just in meditation, but in every act of your day. When you wash the dishes, wash the dishes. Feel the water. Notice the movement. Let the warmth be enough. When you speak with someone, truly listen, not with the intent to respond, but with the intent to understand. Hear not just the words, but the pauses, the tone, the presence. When you feel joy, savor it. When you feel pain, hold it gently. Nothing is outside of awareness. And when awareness is present, everything becomes sacred, even suffering, especially suffering. For in the light of awareness, suffering is no longer something that isolates you. It becomes something that connects you to your own heart, to the hearts of others, to the shared tenderness of being human. You begin to see how much of your pain comes not from the experience itself, but from the resistance to it, from the story about how it should be different, from the fear that it will never end, from the identification that says, this is me, but awareness says, this is happening, and I am here. And somehow, in that presence, the pain becomes more bearable, not because it disappears, but because it is no longer faced alone. You are there, for yourself, with kindness. This is not detachment, it is intimacy. The deepest intimacy with your own experience, with life itself, and slowly, your relationship with yourself begins to change. You are no longer at war. You are no longer a project to be fixed. You are a presence to be met. The fruits of this practice are subtle, but profound. More ease, more patience, more compassion, more moments of unexpected joy, and perhaps most importantly, the growing realization that peace was never far away. It was only buried beneath inattention. You do not need to become someone else to be free. You do not need to escape your life to find meaning. You only need to turn toward it, fully, with awareness. So begin now, wherever you are. Notice your breath, notice your body, notice your mind, notice your heart, and hold all of it with the gentle embrace of awareness. As we continue, we will explore one of the most powerful tools for cultivating awareness, the breath. Simple, constant, and always presented is the bridge between body and mind, between effort and ease, between forgetting and remembering. But for now, let this be enough. You are here, you are aware, and in that, everything begins. Returning to the anchor of life. Breathe in, breathe out, a simply act, a quiet rhythm, and yet, within this humble movement lies the gateway to peace, to clarity, to the essence of being itself. Among all the teachings in Buddhism, few are as accessible and profound as the breath. The breath is not just a biological function, it is a spiritual tool, a sacred tether to the present moment. In Zen practice, the breath is our anchor. It is the thread that connects body, mind, and awareness. And though it is always with us, we so often forget it until we return to it. And in that return, we rediscover ourselves. Pause now. Let go of trying. Let go of becoming. Simply feel the breath as it is. No control, no judgment, just awareness. That in itself is enough. In modern life, the breath is often neglected. Our attention is pulled outward, our minds scattered in 10 directions. And in that stress, we begin to breathe in shallow, unconscious patterns. The breath becomes tight, rushed, held without knowing. And as the breath shortens, so too does our presence. Our clarity dulls, our anxiety heightens, our sense of inner space contracts. But when we return to the breath with awareness, something remarkable happens. The body softens, the mind begins to settle, the heart finds its rhythm again. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh beautifully taught, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. This anchor does not use it, frees us. It does not drag us into the past or project us into the future. It brings us home, here, now. In traditional Buddhist teachings, the breath is used as the first object of meditation because it is always present and neutral. Unlike thoughts, it is not colored by fear or desire. Unlike emotions, it does not overwhelm or intoxicate. It is steady. It is silent. It is pure. When we focus on the breath, we are training the mind to stay. We are inviting it out of the tangled forest of thinking and into the open field of awareness. And we are not simply observing the breath, we are feeling it. The coolness at the tip of the nose, the rise and fall of the belly, the expansion of the ribs. Each breath is a doorway into the body, into sensation, into presence. Zen does not use the breath to escape life, it uses the breath to enter life more fully. Inhale, and you feel the aliveness in your body. Exhale, and you release what no longer serves. Inhale, you are reborn. Exhale, you let go. Over time, the breath becomes more than a focus, it becomes a companion, a refuge, a guide. In moments of anxiety, you return to it. In moments of joy, you savor it. In moments of pain, you soften into it. Let's look at a common scenario. You receive unexpected bad news. The mind reacts, thoughts spiral, panic rises, the chest tightens. In such a moment, you might forget everything you've learned, but the breath is still there. You place your hand on your chest, close your eyes, and feel the breath rising, falling. One conscious breath, then another. You begin to ground, not by denying the pain, but by staying with it, breathing through it, returning to what is real. In the Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha's foundational discourse on mindfulness, he speaks of the breath as the first foundation of awareness. The practitioner is instructed to know when a long breath is taken, know when a short breath is taken. With each breath, one becomes intimate with the process of living. This is not about controlling the breath. It's not about manipulating it into perfection. It is about witnessing it as it is. When the breath is shallow, we notice. When it deepens, we notice. We remain with it not as a technician, but as a lover, attentive, present, open. There is a beauty in this simplicity. It asks nothing but your attention, and in return, it gives you the world. The breath is also deeply connected to the nervous system. When we breathe rapidly, we activate the body's stress response. But when we breathe slowly and deeply, we stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural rest and digest mode. Blood pressure lowers, heart rate slows, muscles release. The mind begins to unclench. This is not mystical. This is biological. The body remembers what the mind forgets. That peace is possible. In Zen, some teachers offer the image of riding the breath like a boat across the ocean. You don't need to control the ocean. You don't need to stop the waves. You simply stay with the boat. Trust it. Let it carry you, moment by moment. And when the storms come, they will. You do not panic. You return to the breath, not to escape the storm, but to remain steady within it. This is the gift of breath awareness. It gives us a way to stay present when we want to run, to stay calm when everything shouts for reaction, to stay connected when we feel alone. Let's try it now. Let's breathe together. Not perfectly, not forcefully, just gently. Inhale, feel the air enter your body. Exhale, feel the release. Inhale, sensing space. Exhale, letting go. Inhale, aware of this moment. Exhale, resting in it. Stay with this rhythm for a few breaths. No need to count, no need to judge. Just feel the breath as the thread connecting you to this very moment. Now notice, how does your body feel? Has anything shifted, even subtly? This is how the breath works. Not in grand gestures, but in quiet invitations. Again and again, it says, come back to now, come back to yourself. There is a Zen story about a monk who asked his master, what is the most important teaching? The master said, awareness of breath. The monk was disappointed, but I already know that. I'm scree, the master replied. Number, you know about it. You do not know it with your body, with your life. To know the breath is to live with it, to walk with it, to let it inform the way you speak, eat, move, and love. You can bring breath awareness into anything. When you open a door, breathe. When you sip your coffee, breathe. When you feel anger rising, breathe. When you laugh, breathe. When you grieve, breathe. It is always with you, always faithful, always ready to bring you back. Over time, you may find that you don't need elaborate rituals or perfect silence to be at peace. You only need one breath, taken with awareness, taken with love. And in that breath, everything changes. Not because the world becomes different, but because you do. You become still, you become present, you become aware. And in that awareness, you find space to respond instead of react, to soften instead of tense, to open instead of close. You begin to trust in the rhythm of life, to inhale when it's time to receive, to exhale when it's time to let go, to rest in the in-between, to know with your whole being that this moment is enough. As we move forward in this journey, we will explore how this awareness, grounded in the breath, can help us meet difficult emotions. Emotions like anger, sadness, grief, and fear emotions we often suppress or resist. But now, with the breath as our companion, we will learn to welcome them, to understand them, and to transform them. But for now, let the breath be your home. Let it carry you. Let it hold you. Let it remind you. You are alive. You are present. You are enough, just as you are, just as this breath is. Breathe in, breathe out, and rest in the miracle of this moment, welcoming the storm with open arms. We often imagine spiritual peace as the absence of struggly kind of smooth, serene life untouched by pain, anger, fear, or grief. But true spiritual maturity is not about evading the storm. It is about learning how to stand calmly in its midst. It is about embracing difficult emotions, not as enemies to conquer, but as teachers, messengers, and even sacred guests. In Zen practice, we do not seek to bypass emotions. We do not meditate to suppress, deny, or numb ourselves. Instead, we create space, spacious, compassionate awareness that can hold even the most intense feelings. The goal is not to be unshakable in the face of suffering, but to remain present within it. And that begins with the simple yet powerful act of turning toward what hurts instead of away. There is a well-known Zen story that captures this teaching beautifully. A young monk came to his master, overwhelmed by grief after the death of his mother. He asked, "How do I get rid of this sorrow?" The master looked at him and said, "Who told you to get rid of it?" The monk blinked in confusion. "Isn't that the point of practice? To remove suffering?" "No," the master said gently. "The point is to be with it, to hold it like a crying child. Only then will it transform." This wisdom may seem counterintuitive, especially in a culture that encourages us to stay positive, move on, and get over it. We are taught to manage our emotions, control them, fix them. We are rarely taught how to feel them, how to sit with the raw heat of anger, the dull ache of sadness, or the trembling edge of fear without drowning in them or pushing them away. Zen invites us to feel everything, not as a form of indulgence, but as a gateway to presence. When we sit in meditation, we do not seek a blank mind. We seek an honest one, and that honesty includes whatever emotion arises. If sadness appears, we note, sadness is here. If frustration stirs, we acknowledge, frustration is present. We don't become the emotion. We don't fight it. We don't analyze it. We simply witness it, gently, as part of the human weather. This witnessing is not passive. It is active compassion. It is the mature part of you sitting beside the part of you that is in pain, saying, "I see you. I won't abandon you. You are welcome here." This act of inner hospitality is revolutionary. Imagine welcoming your most difficult feelings as you would a dear friend in need. You might not have answers. You might not even understand what they need, but you can sit beside them. You can breathe with them. You can let them speak, because every emotion, no matter how painful, is trying to tell you something. Anger often masks unmet needs or violated boundaries. Grief points to love that has lost its form. Fear highlights the places within you that seek protection. Shame reveals internalized beliefs that were never yours to begin with. But to hear these messages, we must first stop silencing them. We must become present with what arises. This is where the breath becomes our ally. When a difficult emotion surfaces, the mind tends to react, automatically spinning stories, assigning blame, or retreating into avoidance. But if we bring our attention to the breath, just one breath, we interrupt the cycle. We ground ourselves. We create a pause. And in that pause, we find the space to choose a different relationship with what we're feeling. Try this now. Think of a moment recently when you felt overwhelmed, perhaps by anger, sorrow, or anxiety. Close your eyes. Bring that moment to mind. Notice how it feels in your body. Not the story, but the sensation. Now place one hand over your heart or your belly. Breathe slowly. Inhale. I see this emotion. Exhale. I am here with it. Don't try to fix it. Don't explain it. Just be with it. This simple practice, bringing presence to pain, is the essence of emotional alchemy. It transforms what we carry not by removing it, but by softening our grip around it. When we welcome emotions with awareness, something remarkable happens. They begin to change on their own, just like a child who throws a tantrum to get attention. Many of our inner storms only grow louder when ignored. But when they are seen, truly seen, they begin to settle. We begin to feel safe within ourselves, not because everything is calm, but because we are no longer afraid of the waves. Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck once said, "Our practice is not to clear up the mystery, it is to make the mystery clear." Emotions are part of that mystery, complex, layered, often without a clear origin. But when we meet them with curiosity rather than resistance, we begin to understand them not as problems, but as parts of our own being that long for wholeness. Let us take anger, for example. Anger is often labeled as bad or dangerous. But in Zen, we do not moralize emotions, we explore them. Anger, when mindlessly acted upon, can certainly cause harm. But anger, when mindfully observed, can point to injustice. It can show us where our values are. It can reveal old wounds. When we sit with anger, feel it in the body, trace its heat, name it without feeding it, we begin to understand its roots. And in that understanding, we are no longer controlled by it. We can respond rather than react. Or take grief. Grief is not a problem to solve. It is a natural process of love taking on a different shape. To grieve is to be human. And yet so many of us hide our grief, ashamed of how long it lingers, afraid of being too much. Zen teaches us to sit with grief as we would sit beside a dying fire, not trying to reignite it, not trying to extinguish it, just being with its glow, honoring its presence. There is a Zen koan that asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" It is a question meant to short-circuit the thinking mind. But perhaps the sound of one hand clapping is the sound of awareness embracing pain. Not fixing it, not completing it, just holding it. This is what it means to embrace difficult emotions. It is not about resolution. It is about relationship. Over time, as we build this relationship with our inner life, we begin to trust ourselves more. We are no longer terrified of our feelings. We no longer need to flee or numb. We can sit in the fire and know we will not be consumed. We can feel fully and still be free. This inner freedom is not dramatic. It is subtle. You may find yourself pausing before reacting, taking a breath before speaking, soothing your own heart before seeking it from others. You become a safe place for yourself. And when you are safe with yourself, you become safe for others. You listen more deeply. You judge less. You recognize in another's tears something familiar. You no longer turn away. In this way, your personal practice becomes a source of healing not just for you, but for the world around you. So the next time a difficult emotion arises, remember, you don't need to push it away. You don't need to fix it. You only need to turn toward it, breathe with it, and say gently, "I'm here. I see you. You belong." This is not weakness. This is not passivity. This is the strength of presence. This is the wisdom of Zen. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how to take this wisdom a step further, how to let go of the clinging and attachment that often give rise to our most persistent emotional suffering. But before we do, let yourself rest here, with breath, with feeling, with the soft strength of simply being with what is, because nothing needs to be perfect. It only needs to be met with awareness, opening the hand of thought, freedom through release. In the heart of a Zen monastery nestled in the mountains of Japan, there is a quiet practice handed down for centuries, not just of meditation or chanting, but of letting go. Monks there are trained not merely to let go of material possessions, but also of ideas, beliefs, memories, expectations, and even the desire to attain enlightenment. Why? Because Zen recognizes something we often forget. It is not what we hold that brings us suffering, it is how tightly we cling. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about loosening our grip. It is about recognizing that all things, possessions, identities, relationships, emotions are impermanent. And in that recognition, we find not loss, but freedom. To understand attachment in the Buddhist sense, we must look beyond the surface. Attachment does not simply mean to love something or to care. Love, in its purest form, is expansive. It allows space. It honors freedom. Attachment, however, contracts. It tightens. It says, "This is mine. This must last," or "I cannot be okay without this." And that very clinging becomes the source of pain. Think of holding a handful of sand. Hold it with an open palm, and the grains rest gently. Close your fist tightly around it, and the sand slips through your fingers. This is the paradox of attachment. The more we cling, the more we suffer. In the second noble truth, the Buddha taught that the cause of suffering is often translated as craving or clinging. We crave pleasure, permanence, identity. We crave to become someone, to gain something, to avoid discomfort, to make things last. But life is fluid. Everything changes. The moment we try to freeze it, we suffer. Letting go, then, is not a single act, it is a way of relating to the world. It is a practice of meeting life with open hands, rather than clenched fists. There is a well-known story in Zen of two monks walking along a muddy road. They come across a young woman struggling to cross. One of the monks lifts her gently and carries her to the other side. Hours later, as they walk in silence, the second monk finally bursts out, "Why did you carry that woman? We monks are not supposed to touch women." The first monk replies, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is the heart of attachment. We carry things long after they are gone. A hurtful comment, a missed opportunity, a failed relationship. We replay it, rehearse it, rewrite it in our minds. The event has passed, but the mind holds on. Zen invites us to put it down. This does not mean denial. It means choosing not to let the past dictate the present. It means recognizing that clinging to pain only prolongs it. It means gently, compassionately releasing what no longer serves. But how do we do this? We begin by seeing clearly what we are holding. Sit quietly and ask yourself, what am I clinging to right now? An idea of who I should be? A belief about someone else? A fear of the future? A resentment from the past? Often, we are unaware of our attachments until life pulls them away. A job loss reveals our identity was tied to success. A breakup shows our self-worth was linked to another's presence. A health scare shatters the illusion of control. These moments are painful, but they are also opportunities. In their wake, we are asked, can you find peace even here? Can you let go, not because you have to, but because you see that holding on is hurting you? Letting go is not something we force. It cannot be willed or rushed. It must arise from understanding the deep, intuitive knowing that clinging is optional, that freedom lies in release. Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki once said, "If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will be free." Letting go begins in small moments. You notice a thought arise. They shouldn't have treated me that way. Instead of feeding it, you name it. Holding, you breathe, you smile, you let it pass. You feel the urge to defend yourself in a conversation. You pause, you soften, you choose presence over pride. You catch yourself fantasizing about a future that hasn't happened. You return to the breath, you return to now. This is not indifference, it is intimacy with reality. It is choosing to love what is, rather than clinging to what was or might be. Even in meditation, we practice letting go not just of thoughts, but of the need to achieve, to do it right. The instruction is simple. Sit, breathe, let go, again and again. The Zen master Dogen spoke of this when he said, "To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self." This forgetting is not erasure, it is release. It is the dropping away of all the ideas, roles, and stories we have clung to. And in that dropping away, we find something deeper, awareness itself, unburdened, unbound. There's a koan that asks, how do you step from the top of a 100-foot pole? It means, how do you let go of even the final clinging to identity, to safety, to the illusion of control? How do you surrender completely to life? And the answer is, you step, you trust, you let go. This stepping is not reckless. It is wise. It is the culmination of seeing, again and again, that clinging brings suffering and that freedom is found in release. Sometimes we are afraid to let go because we believe that what we're holding defines us. If I let go of this relationship, who am I? If I let go of my anger, won't they win? If I let go of control, won't everything fall apart? But Zen shows us that what we let go of does not diminish us, it reveals us. The core of who you are is not your story, your past, or your pain. It is your awareness, and awareness is spacious. It can hold everything without being held by anything. Try this practice. Sit in stillness. Bring to mind something you are clinging to, an idea, a regret, a fear. Notice how it feels in the body. Is there tightness, heaviness, a sense of resistance? Now, imagine loosening your grip, not pushing it away, just loosening. Let the breath flow into the tightness. Let space enter the heaviness. With each exhale, silently say, "It's okay to let go." Repeat this gently, no force, just invitation. Feel what remains when you are no longer holding. Often, we discover a surprising lightness, a quiet joy, not because the problem has vanished, but because we have stopped clutching it. This lightness is not naive. It is not about pretending things don't matter. It is about choosing presence over possession. It is about meeting life with an open palm. Imagine holding a bird. Squeeze too tightly and you harm it. Hold too loosely and it flies away. But hold it gently with care but without fear and it may rest in your hand. This is how we can hold life. This is how we can hold love. This is how we can hold ourselves. With care, with awareness, without clinging. Zen is not a path of accumulation. It is a path of subtraction. We do not become more, we become less burdened. We strip away illusion. We drop our masks. We return to what is simple, direct, and true. Letting go is not an end. It is a beginning. Each time we release, we make space. Space for peace. Space for clarity. Space for life as it truly is. And so, we practice, not once, not twice, but continuously. We let go of one thought and then another, one belief and then another. We let go of who we thought we had to be. We let go of how it was supposed to unfold. And in that emptying, we find fullness. The great Zen master Bankei said, "Don't side with yourself." He meant, don't defend the ego. Don't cling to the self-image. Don't make a home out of your suffering. Instead, open, soften, let go, and in doing so, discover that you are not the wave, tossed and frantic. You are the ocean, vast, deep, and free. In the next part of our journey, we will explore what it means to live from this freedom, to move through the world not from clinging or craving, but from clarity and compassion, to act not from fear, but from awareness. But for now, rest in this truth. You can let go, and you will not fall. You will fly. Nothing to hold, everything to embrace. There is a cherry tree in full bloom, its petals blushing against the blue spring sky. For a brief moment, it stands in perfect beauty. Then a wind comes. The petals fall, fluttering like soft snow, and in a few days, the branches are bare. The world does not mourn. In fact, the fleeting nature of the blossoms is what makes them so precious. Their impermanence is their beauty. This simple observation points to one of the most profound truths in Buddhism, impermanentia nika in Pali. Everything changes, everything passes, nothing remains exactly as it is. And yet, rather than resisting this truth, Zen teaches us to embrace it. Let impermanence become not a source of sorrow, but a wellspring of freedom and wisdom. We suffer not because things change, but because we expect them not to. We cling to youth, to roles, to relationships, to moments of happiness as if they could be frozen in time. We resist the natural flow of life, hoping to hold still what was never meant to be held. But when we turn toward impermanence not as a threat, but as a teacher, everything softens. Impermanence is not the enemy of life, it is the rhythm of it. Everything in the natural world lives by this law. The seasons turn, the tides shift, the moon waxes and wanes, trees grow, decay, and feed new life. Even mountains, though vast and ancient, are shaped by wind and time. In nature, nothing clings, nothing resists. And yet, in our human minds, we do resist. We try to make permanent what is inherently fluid. We fear the aging of our bodies. We fear the loss of status, the fading of love, the certainty that our days are numbered. But Zen does not teach us to escape this reality. It teaches us to live in harmony with it, to bow to it, to see in it the heart of liberation. There is a Zen phrase, let go or be dragged. When we accept impermanence, we let go not in despair, but in grace. We allow things to arise and pass without gripping. We begin to live more lightly, more openly, with more gratitude for what is, knowing it will not last. Impermanence teaches us presence. It says, this moment will never come again. Are you here for it? When we truly see that every breath, every sunrise, every encounter is unrepeatable, we stop sleepwalking through life. We wake up. We taste our tea more fully. We look into our loved one's eyes with more tenderness. We listen with more care, not because we are afraid of loss, but because we have accepted it. The awareness of impermanence transforms our ordinary experiences into sacred ones. Even suffering becomes easier to bear when we remember it, too, is impermanent. That knot of anxiety, that wave of grief, that sense of being lost, they rise, crest, and fall like waves. They do not define us. They do not last forever. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. But what does it mean to see impermanence with wisdom? It means we don't just understand it intellectually, we feel it in our bones. We stop clinging to how things were. We stop fantasizing about how things should be. We meet life as it is, with open hands. To practice this, try a simple meditation. Sit quietly. Bring to mind something you are attached to, a possession, a relationship, a role, even a particular state of mind. Visualize it clearly. Now, imagine it slowly dissolving. Watch it change, fade, disappear. Notice what arises in your body and heart. Is there fear, grief, resistance? Stay with it. Breathe. Let the impermanence be felt not as punishment, but as truth. And then ask gently, can I love this, knowing it will not last? Can I release it, knowing it cannot stay? Can I meet the ending with as much grace as the beginning? This is not a cold practice. It is a tender one. Letting go of illusions makes room for intimacy with life. Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke of seeing the cloud in the tea. When you drink your tea, you are also drinking the rain, the sun, the soil, the farmer, the cloud that became water. Everything is changing, interdependent, and beautiful in its transformation. When we resist impermanence, we create artificial boundaries between ourselves and life. But when we see everything as in motion, we become part of that sacred dance. Let's take an example. A mother watches her child grow. She loves the newborn softness, the first words, the small hands in hers. But the child changes, becomes distant, moves away. If she clings to who the child was, she suffers. If she embraces who the child is becoming, she loves more deeply. She becomes present to the real relationship, not the memory of one. This is true in all things. Holding on creates distance. Letting go brings closeness. Even our identities are impermanent. Who we were at 15 is not who we are now. The person we think we are today will shift by next year. Yet we often cling to fixed ideas. I am this kind of person. I must have this kind of life. And when life pulls us in another direction, we resist. But what if we trusted the change? What if we let ourselves evolve? Zen invites us to live like water, soft, flowing, ungraspable, and patient. Water does not resist the shape of the container it is poured into. It does not mourn the riverbank when it joins the sea. It moves, it adapts, it carries life. This adaptability is not weakness, it is wisdom. To embrace impermanence is to become emotionally resilient. We still feel, we still grieve, we still hope. But we are no longer shattered when things change, because we expect them to, because we are ready. There's a quote attributed to the Buddha, "You only lose what you cling to." And so we ask, what are we clinging to? An old story about ourselves? A dream that hasn't come true? A version of someone that no longer exists? What would happen if we opened our hands? There is another story from the Zen tradition. A student came to the master complaining about a great loss he had suffered. He asked, "Why do we have to lose what we love?" The master said, "Is there anything you have loved that hasn't changed?" The student was silent. The master continued, "Then why not love in alignment with truth, rather than in resistance to it?" That is the practice, to love in alignment with impermanence. It is not a distant or philosophical act. It is something you do each day. You feel sadness without trying to rush it away. You enjoy the company of a friend without needing them to stay forever. You appreciate your health today knowing tomorrow may be different. You walk slowly through autumn, knowing the leaves will fall. And when they fall, you do not curse the tree. You bow to the cycle. This deep acceptance does not make us passive. It makes us attuned. We become more compassionate because we see the fragile beauty in all beings. We become more grateful because we stop taking things for granted. We become more alive because we stop waiting for a perfect moment and start embracing the one we're in. Impermanence is not the opposite of stability. It is the foundation for a stable heart. When you know everything changes, you stop depending on outer conditions for inner peace. You stop needing everything to go your way. You begin to find stillness not in circumstances, but in awareness. You begin to rest not in what comes and goes, but in the space that notices. That space is your true home. It is untouched by change, even as it embraces all change. It is what the Zen masters call the original face, the awareness before thought, before identity, before time. To touch that space is to be free. And so we practice. We sit. We breathe. We feel the breath come, and we feel it go. We feel the heart open, and we feel it break. We see the morning light, and we watch it fade. We do not hold. We do not resist. We let everything belong. Because in letting go, we do not lose. We discover. We discover that what we thought we needed to grasp, we could simply honor. We discover that what we feared losing was never truly ours to keep. We discover that in every ending, there is a beginning, and in every moment, a miracle. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how this awareness of impermanence helps us cultivate compassion, not only for ourselves, but for all beings. Because once we see how fragile and fleeting life is, we can no longer harden our hearts. We can only open them. But for now, pause, breathe, feel this moment as it is. And remember, nothing is permanent. And that is why everything is precious. The soft strength of an open heart. There is a quiet revolution that begins not in grand gestures, but in the smallest of choices. How we speak to ourselves when we're hurting. How we look at a stranger. How we treat someone who cannot give us anything in return. This revolution is called compassion, a heart that trembles with the suffering of others and moves gently toward it. In Zen, compassion is not separate from wisdom. It is its natural expression. As we begin to see clearly through the illusions of the self, as we witness the impermanence and interconnectedness of all things, compassion arises like a spring from deep within. It is not something we create. It is something we uncover. To live compassionately is not to be soft in the sense of weakness. It is to be soft like water, which wears down the hardest rock. It is the strength to remain open in a world that urges you to close. It is the courage to care in a world that often rewards indifference. And it begins with the person we often forget to include in our circle of care, ourselves. The practice of self-compassion. We are often our own harshest critics. The way we speak to ourselves in the privacy of our minds can be brutal. I'm not good enough. I've failed again. What's wrong with me? If we spoke to a friend the way we speak to ourselves, we would likely lose them. And yet, we carry this inner dialogue daily, unaware of how much it wounds us. Zen practice invites us to pay attention, not just to the breath, but to the tone of our thoughts. To ask, am I treating myself as a worthy being or as a project to fix? Self-compassion does not mean indulgence. It means honesty without judgment. It means acknowledging your suffering without adding shame. It means sitting with your pain without rushing to change it. Imagine a child who has fallen and scraped their knee. You wouldn't scold them for being clumsy. You would kneel down, offer a kind word, maybe a gentle embrace. That is compassion. Now imagine offering that same presence to the child inside you when you fail, when you're afraid, when you don't know what to do. Thich Nhat Hanh taught a practice where, when strong emotions arise, we speak to ourselves like this. Dear one, I know you are there, and I am here for you. This simple sentence holds the essence of self-compassion. You do not need to fix the pain. You only need to be with it kindly, patiently, like a friend who never leaves. And as we soften toward ourselves, we begin to soften toward others, seeing ourselves in others. When we look at another person, especially someone difficult. It can be easy to see only their behavior, but Zen asks us to look deeper, to see that behind every harsh word is often a hurting heart, that behind every act of selfishness is often fear, that behind every wall is a wound. This does not excuse harm. Compassion is not about tolerating abuse or becoming passive. It is about understanding that all beings suffer. All beings long for safety, love, and peace even when they go about it in tragically misguided ways. The more we practice awareness, the more we recognize that our pain is not unique. Everyone you meet has known loss. Everyone you meet has carried shame. Everyone you meet is trying, in some way, to be okay. This recognition breaks down the illusion of separation. The boundaries between me and you begin to blur. We see ourselves in others, others in ourselves. And compassion becomes not an effort, but a natural response. There's a Zen story that captures this well. A monk was once asked, "What is the path to enlightenment?" He replied, "Compassion." The student said, "I understand, but once enlightened, what then?" The monk smiled, "More compassion. Compassion in action." True compassion is not just a feeling, it is a verb. It moves, it responds, it reaches out, and it does so not from pity or superiority, but from a deep sense of shared humanity. You don't need to change the world to live compassionately. You begin where you are. You listen without interrupting. You offer a silent prayer to a stranger on the street. You choose kindness when sarcasm would be easier. You pause before reacting in anger. You forgive even if only in your heart. You give someone the benefit of the doubt. These small acts are powerful. They ripple outward in ways we cannot measure. In a world often driven by reactivity and division, compassion is a subversive force. It is a rebellion of gentleness. But compassion is not always easy. It will test us. What do you do when you're hurt by someone? When you're betrayed, dismissed, or judged? Zen does not say, "Pretend it didn't hurt." It says, "Feel the hurt fully and let it open you, not close you." You can set boundaries with compassion. You can speak truth with compassion. You can walk away with compassion. It is not about being agreeable. It is about not adding hatred to hurt. As Buddhist teacher Jack Kornfield puts it, compassion is the tender opening of our heart to pain and suffering, our own and that of others. It is not pity. It is not feeling sorry for someone. It is the recognition that our suffering is shared. Oh, this recognition allows us to respond from wisdom, not from our wounds. Meditation for cultivating compassion. One of the most beautiful practices in Buddhism is metta, or loving kindness meditation. It is the deliberate cultivation of goodwill, first toward ourselves, then toward others, and finally toward all beings. Begin by sitting quietly and bringing attention to your breath. Then repeat silently, "May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease." Say these phrases gently, like a lullaby to your heart. If resistance arises, that's okay. Just notice it, soften into it. Then, bring to mind someone you love dearly. Repeat the same phrases for them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Feel the warmth of your care. Then, expand to someone neutral, a person you see but don't know well. Then, if you feel ready, bring to mind someone who has been difficult. This step is not about approval, it's about releasing the burden of resentment. Finally, expand the wish to all beings. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. This practice is not magic. It will not immediately erase anger or sorrow, but over time, it shifts something deep within. It waters the seeds of the heart. It reminds us that, beneath all appearances, we are connected. The compassionate heart is a free heart. There is an unexpected secret to compassion. It liberates not just the one who receives it, but also the one who gives it. When you live with compassion, you no longer carry as many grudges. You don't dwell as long in bitterness. You move more freely in the world because your heart is not armored, it is open. And in that openness, there is room for everything: joy, grief, longing, laughter, the full spectrum of life. This openness does not make you fragile. It makes you real. It makes you human. The Dalai Lama often says, if you want others to be happy, Practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Compassion is not a side path, it is the path. It is the fruit of awareness, the twin of wisdom, the song of the awakened heart. And so we practice not to become saints, but to become fully ourselves. To meet life not with cynicism, but with care. To meet suffering not with avoidance, but with presence. To meet others not with fear, but with love. As we close this chapter, consider, who in your life needs your compassion today? Where in your heart do you need to turn tenderness inward? What would it feel like to live as though every being mattered, including you? In the next part of our journey, we will explore the Zen of simplicity, how a quieter life can nourish a deeper spirit, how letting go of excess, both outer and inner, can make space for clarity and peace. But for now, let yourself rest in this truth. Your compassion matters. It is not weakness. It is not sentimentality. It is the strongest thing in the world, and it begins right here with your next breath, clearing the clutter to discover what matters. There is a stillness that waits beneath all noise, a clarity beneath the chaos, and often, the doorway to that stillness is found not in adding more, but in subtracting, in peeling away the non-essential, in returning to simplicity. Zen has always pointed towards simplicity not as a minimalist aesthetic or a lifestyle trend, but as a spiritual path, a way of seeing life clearly, without the fog of excess, a way of living gently, with fewer attachments and more presence. In the Zen tradition, simplicity is not deprivation, it is liberation. It is the act of coming home to what really matters. In our modern world, this teaching feels more urgent than ever. We live in a time of abundance, not the abundance of deep joy or meaningful connection, but of options, distractions, information, and possessions. Our closets overflow, yet we feel unsatisfied. Our calendars are packed, yet we feel disconnected. Our minds are busy, yet our hearts are weary. We are surrounded by things, but often estranged from ourselves. Simplicity is the gentle act of clearing space not just on our shelves, but in our minds, our days, our hearts. It is the art of choosing what is essential and letting go of what is not. The Zen path begins here. The outer simplicity. Walk into a Zen monastery, and you may be struck by the starkness of the rooms. A single flower in a vase, a teacup on a wooden shelf, a cushion for sitting, no decoration for decoration's sake, nothing extra, nothing screaming for attention. And yet, in this bareness, there is a profound beauty, a kind of elegance that allows the spirit to breathe. The Zen aesthetic of wabi-sabi reflects this. It is the appreciation of the simple, the rustic, the imperfect. A cracked teapot, lovingly used, a weathered stone, a garden shaped by silence as much as by tools. These are not signs of lack. They are symbols of mindfulness, of reverence for what is real. To live with outer simplicity is not to throw everything away. It is to look honestly and ask, do I need this? Does this serve my life? Or distract from it? When we declutter our spaces, we often discover that it's not just stuff we're letting go of. It's the weight of old stories, outdated versions of ourselves, identities we no longer need. Letting go of excess can feel like shedding armor. We create space not to fill, but to feel, to breathe, to return. Try this practice. Go to a room in your home and choose one small area, shelf, a drawer, a corner. Remove everything from it. Hold each item and ask, does this spark clarity, or does it add noise? Let go gently. Keep what supports your well-being, what brings quiet joy, what holds meaning. As the space clears, notice what arises in you. Resistance, relief, sadness, gratitude. Let all of it be part of the practice. You are not just clearing a room, you are clearing your life. The inner simplicity. But simplicity is not only about what we own, it is about how we think, how we speak, how we move through the world. Zen teaches that the real clutter lies not in our homes, but in our minds, in the endless stream of thoughts, worries, comparisons, judgments, and plans. The mind builds elaborate castles out of imagined futures and haunted pasts. It creates complications where none are needed. And so, we return to the breath. We sit in stillness. We let the waves settle. This inner simplicity is not about erasing thoughts. It is about resting in what is simple and true beneath them. Zen Master Dogen said, To study Buddhism is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. In forgetting the self or fixed ideas, our roles, our masks, we remember our being. The quiet awareness that has no name, no form, no need for complexity. This simplicity expresses itself in every moment. It is the pause before speaking. It is the silence in a conversation. It is the single sip of tea taken fully. It is the choice to say, I don't know, rather than pretend. It is the permission to stop striving for more and to appreciate what is already here. Inner simplicity is not laziness. It is focus. It is the courage to do one thing at a time, to live one moment at a time, to be fully where we are with all of ourselves. In a world obsessed with multitasking, this is radical. There is a Zen story about a student who asks the master, "What is the secret of Zen?" The master replies, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." The student says, "But everyone does that." "No," the master replies, "they don't. When they eat, their minds are elsewhere. When they walk, they plan. When they sleep, they dream of tomorrow." That is not Zen. To live simply is to live undivided, to bring our full presence to whatever is in front of us, however small. That is the practice. Simplicity and contentment. One of the gifts of simplicity is the return of contentment. When we let go of chasing, we begin to feel gratitude for what is. When we stop filling every moment with noise, we begin to hear the quiet joy that has always been there. A breeze through an open window, the sound of birds in the morning, the laughter of a friend, the stillness of evening light. These are not grand experiences, but they are deeply nourishing. Simplicity reveals the abundance of the ordinary. We don't need more to be happy. We need less distraction, less comparison, less striving. The Buddha spoke often of santutta contentment. It is the joy that arises when we stop needing things to be different. This does not mean we give up dreams or ambition. It means we stop postponing happiness. We learn to love the process, not just the result. And in that love, we simplify. We say no to what drains us. We say yes to what restores us. We choose depth over width, stillness over speed. We begin to live aligned with what we value. The courage to choose simplicity. Simplicity is not always easy. It goes against the grain of our conditioning. We are told to accumulate, to compete, to upgrade. We are told that success looks like fullness, not emptiness. But Zen flips the script. It shows us that the greatest richness comes from needing less. That true beauty lies in what is essential, not in what is excessive. That peace does not come from getting more, but from wanting less. To walk the path of simplicity is to walk against the current. It is to say, I do not need to prove my worth. I do not need to be constantly busy. I choose what matters. And sometimes, choosing simplicity means choosing to stop, to pause in the middle of the day, to breathe before you reply, to sit quietly without a screen, to turn down an invitation because your soul needs rest, to do nothing and be okay with that. There is a quote by Lao Tzu that captures this perfectly. To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, subtract things every day. Wisdom is found in the space we create, in the silence between words, in the stillness beneath thought. That is the gift of simplicity, a practice for living simply. Here is a gentle practice to cultivate simplicity in your daily life. Morning intention. Upon waking, before checking your phone, take 3 breaths. Ask yourself, what is essential today? Write down 1 or 2 things. Let them guide your choices. 2. Simplify one area. Choose a space to simplify a drawer, your desktop, your to-do list. Clear what is not needed. Notice how your mind responds. 3. One thing at a time practice. Choose one daily activity: washing dishes, walking, eating, and do it with full attention. No multitasking, just presence. 6. Evening reflection. Before bed, ask, where did I choose simplicity today? Where was I pulled into complexity? Reflect with kindness. No judgment, just awareness. Over time, you may find that your life becomes more spacious, not just externally, but internally. You begin to live from the center, not the edges. You begin to rest in being rather than striving. And in that rest, you remember, you are already whole. You do not need more. You only need to return. The joy of the unadorned life. In Zen, joy is not loud. It is quiet. It arises not from excitement, but from peace. The joy of simplicity is the joy of enough, of watching rain fall without needing anything else, of sitting with someone in silence and feeling complete, of knowing that, in this very moment, nothing is missing. This is not a joy that burns out. It is a joy that deepens, that nourishes, that endures. As we prepare to move forward in our journey, let us carry this simplicity with us not as a rigid rule, but as a gentle guide. Let us walk more slowly, speak more clearly, live more deliberately, love more deeply, not by adding, but by letting go. In the next part of our exploration, we will encounter fear, its roots, its stories, and how mindfulness and simplicity can help us face it with courage. But for now, let this be enough. This breath, this moment, this life, uncomplicated, unadorned, complete, turning toward the shadow, not away. Fear is one of our oldest companions. It lives in the body, rises in the throat, tightens the chest, and races through the mind. Sometimes it speaks in clear words. What if I fail? What if I lose them? What if everything falls apart? And sometimes it hides in silence, showing up as hesitation, avoidance, or numbness. We are taught in many subtle ways to view fear as weakness, to suppress it, to run from it, to armor ourselves against it. But in the Zen tradition, fear is not a problem to fix. It is a teacher to face, a visitor to greet, a fire not to extinguish, but to sit beside in stillness. Fear, in its essence, is not bad. It is a signal, sometimes ancient and protective, sometimes confused and exaggerated. In mindfulness, we do not try to argue with fear. We meet it. We breathe with it. We turn toward it with open eyes and open hearts, not to be consumed by it, but to understand it, and ultimately, to befriend it. The nature of fear. Fear arises when we feel unsafe physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Sometimes, that fear is grounded in real danger, a near accident, a threatening encounter, a traumatic memory. But more often, fear is psychological. It arises from our thoughts, our projections, our attachment to outcomes we cannot control. The Buddha spoke of two arrows. The first arrow is the actual event, the pain, the difficulty, the change. The second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves, the fear, the resistance, the story we build around what is happening. Mindfulness teaches us to stop shooting the second arrow. When fear arises, it brings with it a storm of mental activity. We imagine worst-case scenarios. We relive past traumas. We become caught in loops of anticipation. The heart races, the body tenses, and we think, I have to get out of this. But Zen offers a different path, one that begins not with escape, but with presence, turning toward the fear. Imagine a dark cave. Inside it is the fear you have avoided, the fear of failure, of rejection, of being alone, of death. Most of us stand outside the cave. We build our lives around avoiding it. But Zen invites us to light a candle and walk in, not recklessly, not without support, but with steadiness, with curiosity, with breath, because often, when we finally turn toward fear, we find it is not a monster, but a wound, not an enemy, but a child that has been left in the dark. There's a story of a monk who spent his retreat meditating in a small forest hut. Each night, he heard rustling in the trees, loud, ominous, terrifying. He convinced himself it was a tiger stalking him. For days he lived in dread, barely sleeping, jumping at every sound. Finally, one morning, he walked into the forest, heart pounding, breath shallow, determined to confront the beast. What he found was a squirrel scratching at the bark of a tree. This is how fear often works. The threat feels enormous until we turn toward it. Of course, not all fears are squirrels. Some are real. Some are based on past traumas, societal injustices, or deep personal wounds. But even these fears are softened, clarified, and dignified when met with mindful awareness. Mindfulness says, I see you, fear. You are here. I will not run. And in that simple act of acknowledgement, fear begins to lose its grip. Fear in the body. Before it becomes a thought, fear is a sensation. It lives in the body, in the quickening of the pulse, the tightness in the jaw, the trembling of the limbs. This is why Zen emphasizes embodiment being rooted in physical presence. When fear arises, instead of asking, "Why do I feel this way?" ask, "Where do I feel this?" Bring your attention to the physical sensations, not to judge or analyze, but to stay with them. Notice their texture. Are they sharp or dull, hot or cold, moving or still? As you breathe into the sensation, you may find it shifts. Fear, like all emotions, is impermanent. It rises and falls. The practice is to stay present through the wave. Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck once described fear as a contraction around an image of what might happen. When we bring awareness to that contraction literally and metaphorically, we loosen its hold. Try this the next time fear arises. 1. Pause. Don't rush into action or distraction. Just stop. 2. Feel your feet. Ground yourself. Notice the contact with the earth. 3. Name the fear gently. This is fear. Not "I am afraid," but fear is present. 4. Breathe. Let the breath be steady, even if shallow. Don't force it. 5. Stay. Just stay with the experience, like you would sit beside a frightened friend. This is not easy, but it is transformative. With practice, we learn that we can hold fear without collapsing into it. Fear and impermanence. All fear, at its core, is tied to impermanence. We fear change, we fear loss, we fear not being in control. But as we explored in the previous section, impermanence is not a curse. It is the fabric of life. When we resist it, fear grows. When we accept it, fear softens. We fear death because we do not understand life. We fear loss because we believe we can make things permanent. We fear rejection because we attach our worth to others' opinions. But if we can meet life as it is, fleeting, uncertain, alive, then fear becomes a wave, not a trap. There is a Zen phrase, "No snowflake ever falls in the wrong place." Even fear, then, can be seen as a snowflake, part of the weather of being human, not to be judged, but to be seen, to be felt, to be released. The courage of stillness. We often think of courage as dramatic, standing tall, speaking loudly, taking bold action. But Zen teaches a quieter kind of courage, the courage to sit still, to feel what's there, to not turn away. In meditation, fear may arise in unexpected ways. The silence itself can feel threatening. The absence of distraction may bring old fears to the surface. But if we stay, if we keep breathing, keep watching, something new emerges. A deeper self, a wiser self, one that is not afraid of fear. This is not about eliminating fear. It is about becoming bigger than it, not by force, but by presence. Imagine a vast sky. Now imagine a cloud of fear passing through it. The cloud may be dark and heavy, but it cannot stain the sky. The sky remains. You are the sky. Fear is the weather. Let it come. Let it go. Fear and compassion. Often, fear is loudest when we are on the edge of something important, a transition, a truth, a new path. Instead of seeing fear as a sign to stop, what if we saw it as a sign that we are alive, that we care, that we are growing? And instead of pushing ourselves to get over it, we can meet our fear with compassion. "Dear fear," we might say, "I see you. I know you are trying to protect me. Thank you, but I am okay now. You don't need to be in charge." This inner dialogue may sound simple, even silly, but it has power. It disarms the inner critic. It softens the inner child. It brings tenderness into places that were ruled by shame or silence. When we treat our fear like a frightened animal rather than a monster, it begins to calm. And from this compassion for ourselves, compassion for others flows naturally. Because once we have sat with our own fear, we recognize it in others. We see the tight jaw, the guarded posture, the angry outbursts not as personal attacks, but as expressions of someone's inner fear. We respond not with judgment, but with presence. This is the gift of facing fear with mindfulness. It connects us. It reveals our shared humanity. It teaches us that underneath all armor, we are tender beings, longing for peace. Fear as a path. What if we stop seeing fear as something in the way, and started seeing it as the way. In the Zen tradition, there's a phrase: the obstacle is the path. Fear is not a detour. It is a teacher. It shows us where we are still clinging, where we are still asleep, where we are still protecting the small self. And when we meet it with awareness, it becomes a doorway to courage, to compassion, to awakening. So let us reframe the question, not how can I get rid of fear, but how can I stay present with fear? Not how can I avoid pain, but how can I meet pain with wisdom? Not how can I be fearless, but how can I fear less and love more? Because love and fear cannot occupy the same space. As love grows, fear recedes, not because it has been defeated, but because it has been seen, heard, and understood. Let fear be your teacher. The next time fear arises, and it will try this, pause it, breathe, feel, welcome it like a guest. Ask it what it wants to tell you. Listen, and then, gently, return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to now. You are not broken for feeling fear. You are human. You are growing. And fear is part of that growth. Let it walk beside you, but do not let it lead. Let it speak, but do not let it define you. Let it arise, and let it pass. You are not the fear. You are the awareness. You are the space. You are the stillness beneath the wave. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the power of acceptance, not as resignation, but as a radical act of presence. We'll see how welcoming life as it is can become the ultimate form of liberation. But for now, remember, you can face fear, not with force, but with presence, not with denial, but with breath, not alone, but with the vastness of your own awareness, holding you steady through the storm, saying yes to what is. There is a moment in every spiritual path, a quiet crossroads, where something shifts, the striving slows, the inner resistance softens, and a whisper arises, not from the mind, but from somewhere deeper. Maybe this doesn't need to be different. That whisper is the beginning of acceptance, not passive surrender, not giving up, but a radical, sacred yes to life as it is, in this moment, without condition. In Zen, acceptance is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awakening. It is the moment we stop fighting the river and begin to float with it, not because we're powerless, but because we've realized we are the river. And nothing is more powerful than flowing in harmony with the truth of what is. But to accept something does not mean we agree with it. It means we see it clearly. We stop arguing with reality. We stop demanding that life follow our script. We meet life on its own terms, and in doing so, we touch a freedom that is deeper than control. The myth of should. Much of our suffering comes not from the events of life, but from the stories we tell about them, from the constant mental resistance. This shouldn't be happening. I should be further along. They should have treated me differently. These shoulds form a cage around our hearts. They bind us to an imagined version of life, one that rarely aligns with reality. Zen asks a simple, piercing question. What happens when you drop the should? What happens when, even for a moment, you allow things to be exactly as they are? You may find that beneath the resistance is a deep well of peace, a silence, a stillness, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer fighting the imperfection. This doesn't mean you lose discernment. You can still choose, you can still act, but your actions come not from reactivity, but from clarity, not from desperation, but from stillness. Acceptance is not the end of engagement. It is the beginning of wise action. The body knows first. Before we mentally accept something, our bodies often reveal the truth of our resistance. Think of a time you were emotionally hurt. Did your shoulders tighten? Did your stomach churn? Did your chest feel heavy? These physical sensations are the body's way of saying, I don't want this. They are contractions, moments of internal flinching. And in mindfulness practice, we learn to notice these micro movements, to feel the resistance in the body, to breathe into it, to ask, can I soften here? Acceptance begins in the body. It is the unclenching of the jaw, the softening of the fists, the exhale you didn't know you were holding. This physical openness becomes a doorway to emotional and spiritual openness. Try it now. Bring to mind something difficult you're facing. Notice where the resistance lives in your body. Don't try to change it. Just breathe into it. See if it wants to soften. That softness is not weakness. It is the ground of healing. The power of saying yes. In meditation, thoughts arise. Sensations come and go. Emotions surface, sometimes joy, sometimes sorrow, sometimes boredom. The practice is not to change what arises. It is to say yes to it. Not, yes, I like this, but yes, this is what is here. You feel tension, yes. You hear a dog barking, yes. You remember a painful memory, yes. You feel the urge to get up, yes. This continual yes is a way of aligning with reality. And in that alignment, the need for struggle dissolves. There's a Zen story of a master who was asked, "What is the secret of your peace?" He replied, "When it rains, I let it rain. When it shines, I let it shine." This is the essence of acceptance. Life will rain, life will shine. The peace comes not from changing the weather, but from no longer resisting it. Acceptance is not resignation. Many people confuse acceptance with passivity, but they are not the same. Resignation says, "I can't change this, so I give up." Acceptance says, "This is how it is right now. What's the wise response?" Resignation closes the heart. Acceptance opens it. Resignation feels like collapse. Acceptance feels like grounding. Think of a tree in the wind. Resignation would be snapping under pressure. Acceptance is bending with the breeze, rooted but flexible. In fact, some of the most transformative actions arise from deep acceptance. The activist who accepts injustice as real, not as theory, becomes more effective, not less. The grieving parent who accepts their pain can walk with others through theirs. The addict who accepts the truth of their addiction finds the courage to seek help. Acceptance gives us stability. From that stability, we move not from fear, but from love. When acceptance hurts, some things feel impossible to accept. A sudden loss, a betrayal, a diagnosis, a failure that cuts deep. In these moments, the mind rebels. This cannot be. That reaction is natural. Acceptance does not mean we bypass grief. It does not mean we skip anger or sadness. It means we allow those emotions to move through us. We do not add the second arrow, resistance, to the resistance. Sometimes, acceptance takes time, and that's okay. We can practice layers of acceptance. First, we accept that we cannot accept right now. Then, we accept the pain of that. Slowly, moment by moment, we open to what is. There is a Japanese practice called Naikana method of reflection that asks 3 questions. 1. What have I received? 2. What have I given? 3. What troubles have I caused? This gentle inquiry softens resistance. It allows us to see reality without blame or shame. It helps us move from victimhood to agency. In Zen, there is no rush. The flower blooms when it is ready. So does the heart. Radical acceptance of the self. Perhaps the hardest thing to accept is ourselves. We carry secret judgments. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I'll be worthy when. Zen challenges this. It says, you are already Buddha. Not after you lose the weight, not after you heal the wound, not after you master the practice. Now, as you are. This doesn't mean there's no room for growth, but growth comes from love, not from lack. From the soil of acceptance, not the fire of self-hate. Tara Brach, a teacher of mindfulness, speaks of radical acceptance, the willingness to face all of ourselves with compassion. She offers the mantra, this too belongs. The shame, the fear, the longing, the joy, all of it belongs. All of it is part of this human experience. When we stop rejecting ourselves, we stop rejecting others. When we stop rejecting this moment, we find peace not in escape, but in presence. Living acceptance daily. Acceptance is not a one-time event. It is a way of moving through life, a way of listening, of seeing, of relating. Here are some daily ways to practice it. 1. Begin each day with a breath. Before checking your phone, feel the inhale and exhale. Say silently, I accept this breath. I accept this body. 2. Notice your resistance. Throughout the day, ask, where am I saying no to what is? Is it traffic, a difficult conversation, a moment of silence? 3. Pause instead of react. When triggered, take one breath. Feel the body. Ask, can I meet this moment instead of fighting it? 4. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is a form of acceptance. It says, this is enough. 5. End each day with forgiveness. Forgiveness is the acceptance of imperfection, of mistakes, of humanity. Let your day begin and end with acceptance. Let your breath be its rhythm, the deepest acceptance. Ultimately, acceptance leads us to the deepest truth of Zen, that there is no separate self to accept or reject, that all phenomena are arising and passing in awareness, that life, in its raw, changing form, is not something we stand apart from, it is what we are. To accept reality is to merge with it, to disappear into it, not in a way that erases us, but in a way that dissolves the illusion of separation. When we fully accept, we become like the sky, vast, open, allowing all weather. Anger is a storm, let it pass. Joy is sunshine, let it shine. Grief is a cloud, let it drift. None of it is permanent, all of it is welcome. This is liberation, not in some distant future, but here, now, in this breath. Closing reflection. Sit quietly for a moment. Place a hand over your heart. Whisper gently, I accept this moment. I accept this life. I accept myself. Feel what stirs. You may not fully believe it yet. That's okay. Say it anyway. Let the words be a bridge. Let acceptance be the path. Let love meet you where you are. In the next part of our journey, we will explore how forgiveness, the ultimate expression of acceptance, can free us from the chains of the past and open us to the fullness of life. But for now, rest here with what is, as it is, and let that be enough. Opening the heart, releasing the past. There is a pain that lingers in the background of many lives, a silent ache, a closed door, a wound that time alone does not heal. It may come from a betrayal, a harsh word, a loss, or even from the things we wish we'd done differently ourselves. This pain often has a single name, unforgiveness. Whether directed at others or at ourselves, it is like carrying a heavy stone. Each step is harder, each day a little less light. Yet, as the Zen tradition teaches, true healing begins not when we change the past or punish the wrongdoer, but when we open the hand that clings to hurt, when we forgive. Forgiveness is not a simple act, nor is it a sign of weakness or forgetting. It is the deep, ongoing practice of freedom. It is choosing not to let yesterday's suffering define today's joy. The nature of forgiveness in Zen. Forgiveness in Zen is less about words, more about presence. It is not a ritual, not an obligation, not even a destination. It is a letting go or release of our tight grip on resentment, anger, and guilt. When we forgive, we are not saying what happened was right or acceptable. We are not erasing justice, nor are we pretending that harm did not occur. Instead, forgiveness is a courageous act of self-liberation. We stop carrying the wound in our heart, stop replaying the story in our mind. We begin to live again not as prisoners of the past, but as participants in the present. Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "When you learn how to suffer, you suffer much less. When you are able to forgive, you are free." Why we struggle to forgive. Many obstacles keep us from forgiveness. Sometimes, we believe holding on to anger protects us from further harm. Sometimes, we think that forgiveness excuses the hurt or lets someone off the hook. Sometimes the pain feels too raw, the wound too fresh. Sometimes, it is ourselves we cannot forgive, a mistake we regret, a failure we cannot accept, a path not taken. Yet, in almost every case, the resistance to forgiveness is an attempt to control the uncontrollable, the past. We hope that by holding on to our hurt, we can somehow change what happened, but all we really do is prolong the suffering. Zen recognizes this as another form of attachment, clinging to our pain, our story, our identity as the wounded one. It's like grasping a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else, all the while burning ourselves. Forgiveness is a process. Forgiveness does not happen all at once. It is not a single moment of enlightenment, but a journey with many steps. Sometimes, we need to revisit our wounds again and again, each time letting go a little more. The first step is acknowledgement. We face what happened honestly, without minimizing or justifying. We admit the pain, the loss, the harm. In Zen, this is called seeing things as they are. No story, no denial, just the raw truth. The second step is feeling. We let ourselves grieve, rage, mourn, regret. We feel the tightness in our body, the ache in our heart, the tears that want to come. Zen teaches us not to bypass this step. Real healing cannot occur if we skip over feeling. We let ourselves be human. The third step is compassion. This may begin with ourselves. I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. Or it may be extended to the one who hurt us. They too are suffering. They too are human. Compassion is not approval. It is understanding. The fourth step is release. This is the heart of forgiveness. With every exhale, we let go of the need to punish, of the desire for a different past, of the self-judgment or blame. We do not force this. We allow it, gently, over time. Sometimes, forgiveness is a decision. Sometimes, it is simply the absence of clinging, forgiving others. To forgive another is often one of the hardest things we do. The ego resists, demanding repayment or apology. The mind replays the injury, keeping it fresh. Yet, Zen reminds us that what we hold against another, we hold within ourselves. The anger and resentment do not hurt them as much as they hurt us. There is a story from the Buddhist tradition. A monk was traveling with a heavy pack on his back. He complained of pain, fatigue, and suffering. Another monk asked, "Why not put it down?" The first monk replied, "But I need to remember how heavy it was, so I don't forget." The second monk smiled gently. "You will never forget, but you don't have to keep carrying it." To forgive does not mean to forget, but to put the pack down. Sometimes, we confuse forgiveness with reconciliation. They are not the same. You may forgive someone and never see them again. Forgiveness does not require you to trust, to condone, or to continue a relationship. It is an inner act, not an outer one. A practical step: write a letter to the one who hurt you. Say everything you wish you could say. Then, instead of sending it, burn it or bury it. Watch as the smoke rises or the earth closes over the page. Let the act symbolize your willingness to let go. You do not need their participation to be free. Forgiving yourself. Often, the hardest forgiveness is the one we owe ourselves. We hold ourselves to impossible standards. We blame ourselves for the past. We see our mistakes as proof of unworthiness. But Zen teaches that to be human is to be imperfect. The word sin in its root means to miss the mark. We all miss the mark, again and again. The path is not one of perfection, but of return. Sit quietly, place a hand over your heart. Whisper, "I forgive you." You may not believe it at first. That's okay. Let the words be a seed. Water them with kindness each day. Remember, self-forgiveness is not self-indulgence. It is self-respect. It is the willingness to learn and to move forward, not to be trapped in regret. Tara Brach teaches the practice of radical self-forgiveness. She invites us to imagine our younger selves at the moment of mistake or pain, and to see them with the eyes of compassion. You too were doing the best you could. You too deserve another chance. Forgiveness as a spiritual practice. Forgiveness is not just for individuals, it is for the world. When we forgive, we interrupt cycles of violence and revenge. We refuse to pass our pain forward. We heal our lineage, our communities, our future. Forgiveness is contagious. When one person puts down the burden, others are inspired to do the same. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a permanent attitude. Zen encourages us to make forgiveness part of daily life, not just for the big wounds, but for the small slights: a harsh word from a friend, a mistake at work, a disappointment in ourselves. Each time we forgive, we cleanse the heart. Each time we let go, we find a little more space, a little more peace. A meditation on forgiveness. Sit comfortably, close your eyes. Bring to mind someone you have not forgiven, perhaps yourself. With each breath, repeat silently, "I forgive you, I release you, I wish you peace." So, if resistance arises, notice it with kindness. If tears come, let them fall. If nothing seems to happen, trust the process. Stay with it for a few minutes, or as long as you wish. Over time, you may find your heart lightens. The memory loses its sharpness. The grip loosens. This is not magic, it is practice. The practice of opening the heart, forgiveness and boundaries. Forgiveness does not mean we allow harm to continue. Sometimes, the most loving act is to set a boundary, to say no more, to walk away. Zen teaches compassion, but also discernment. You can forgive and still protect yourself. You can release the poison of resentment while refusing to drink from that cup again. Let your forgiveness be wise. Let it arise from love for yourself, not just for the other. The freedom of forgiveness. There is a freedom on the other side of forgiveness that cannot be found anywhere else. It is the freedom to meet life with an open heart, unburdened by the past. It is the freedom to be at peace, even with what cannot be changed. It is the freedom to love again, to trust again, to try again. Forgiveness is not the end of hurt. It is the beginning of healing. There is a Zen koan. Two monks were arguing about a flag. One said, "The flag is moving." The other said, "The wind is moving." The master said, "It is your minds that are moving." Our suffering is often the movement of mind clinging, resisting, replaying. Forgiveness is the stillness that remains when we let the mind rest. Closing reflection. Take a breath. Place a hand on your heart. Whisper, "May I be free. May you be free. May all beings be free." Let forgiveness become a daily practice. Let it open doors you thought were forever closed. Let it bring light into the places long shrouded in shadow. As we move forward in our journey, we will explore how to live from this healed heart, to meet each moment with non-judgment, how to abide in the spaciousness of true presence. But for now, let forgiveness be enough. Let letting go be your liberation. Let love lead you home. Beyond labels, living without the weight of right and wrong. Most of us live in a world built of judgments. We judge ourselves, our appearance, our work, our worth. We judge others, their choices, their words, their flaws. We judge moments good or bad, successful or failed, pleasant or painful. Each judgment is like a stamp on the flow of life. Acceptable, unacceptable, worthy, unworthy, friend, enemy. Over time, this habit becomes invisible, so ingrained it feels like reality itself. But Zen asks a radical question. What if you could step outside this cage? What if you could meet life without labeling, without comparison, without dividing the world into pieces? This is the invitation of non-judgment, not to lose discernment, but to reclaim your freedom, to live in a world that is more open, more peaceful, more real, to rest in the vastness of being, where nothing is excluded and everything belongs. Judgment and the divided mind. To judge is human. The mind is a tool for discernment, and judgment is how we learn, adapt, and survive. We need to distinguish hot from cold, safe from dangerous, helpful from harmful. But somewhere along the way, this healthy discernment grows into something more rigid. It becomes a reflex to divide everything into right and wrong, better and worse, me and not me. The mind creates an endless stream of evaluations, often unexamined and automatic. These judgments are not just about the world outside us. They shape our inner world, too. We become our own harshest critics. I shouldn't feel this way. I'm not doing enough. I'm always messing up. Every thought, emotion, or impulse is put on trial. And because perfection is impossible, we live under the shadow of inadequacy. This habit is not only exhausting, it is alienating. It cuts us off from our own experience. When we judge a feeling as bad, we repress or deny it. When we judge a person as wrong, we lose the chance to understand them. When we judge a moment as not enough, we miss the life that is actually happening. Zen names this habit dualistic thinking, the tendency to split the world into opposites. The path to freedom begins with seeing this division and then relaxing it. The Zen approach to non-judgment. Zen does not ask us to become naive or gullible. It is not about abandoning all discernment or common sense. Instead, Zen invites us to see things as they are, before judgment arises. To meet life with what Suzuki Roshi called beginner's mind, a mind open, fresh, free of preconception. There is a famous Zen story of a farmer whose horse ran away. The neighbors said, "Such bad luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 wild horses. "Such good luck," the neighbors said. Maybe, replied the farmer. Then the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, fell, and broke his leg. Such bad luck. Maybe. Soon after, soldiers came to the village, conscripting young men for war, but left the farmer's injured son behind. Such good luck. Maybe. The story is simple, but its wisdom is deep. Life is bigger than our judgments about it. What we call good may bring bad, and what we call bad may bring blessings in disguise. The truth is always larger than the label. Practicing non-judgment in meditation. Meditation is the perfect training ground for non-judgment. When you sit in silence, the mind will produce all kinds of experiences: calm, restlessness, joy, boredom, clarity, confusion. The habitual response is to judge. This is good meditation. This is bad meditation. I'm getting somewhere. I'm wasting my time. But the practice is to notice these judgments, then let them go. Each time a thought arises, I shouldn't be thinking. I should feel peaceful. I'm not doing it right. You can silently say, judging, and return to the breath. Over and over, you practice letting go of labels and returning to what is. Over time, you may notice a spaciousness growing within. You are less reactive to your experience. You can feel anxious without believing something is wrong. You can feel pain without the extra layer of, this shouldn't be. You can experience joy without clutching at it. The mind becomes more like a mirror reflecting what is, but not clinging or resisting. This is not indifference, it is intimacy. The more you judge, the more you stand apart from life. The more you release judgment, the more you participate fully. Non-judgment and compassion. To live without judgment is to live with more compassion. When you stop dividing the world into good and bad, you begin to see the shared humanity in everyone. The person you once judged harshly now becomes a mystery, someone with fears, hopes, a story you do not know. Non-judgment softens your heart toward yourself as well. Instead of beating yourself up for every perceived flaw, you can say, this too is part of being human. The shame and self-criticism begin to melt. You find a kindness for your own struggles. There is a Buddhist practice called equanimity, the ability to remain balanced amid changing circumstances. Equanimity is not coldness. It is the warmth of acceptance for all that arises. It is the trust that you do not need to control, fix, or label everything in order to be okay. Daily life as practice. The real test of non-judgment is not on the meditation cushion, but in the world. You stand in line at the grocery store and someone is rude. Judgment arises. How selfish. Notice it, feel it, then let it go. Can you see them as a whole person, not just as an action? You receive criticism at work. Judgment arises. I'm a failure. Notice it, name it. Return to what is true, just feedback, just an opinion, not the totality of who you are. You look in the mirror and see an aging face, a tired body. Judgment arises. I'm not attractive. Pause, breathe. Notice the body as it is, alive, breathing, miraculous in its being. Everyday life is full of opportunities to practice non-judgment. The goal is not to suppress judgments, but to recognize them as thoughts, not truths, to see through them and return to the deeper reality beneath. Non-judgment is freedom. What does it feel like to live without constant judgment? It feels like freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of comparison. Freedom from the heaviness of self-criticism. Freedom from the endless need to fix yourself or the world. You begin to trust life. You begin to trust yourself. You allow things to unfold. You respond rather than react. There is a Zen saying, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. This does not mean you never choose or care. It means you are not attached. You are open to what arises, trusting that life will bring what is needed, moment by moment. A practice for non-judgment. Try this gentle exercise. 1. Set an intention. At the start of your day, say silently, today, I will notice my judgments. I will not believe them. 2. Pause and name. Whenever you catch yourself judging yourself, another, a situation, pause and silently say, judging. Notice what comes next. 3. Feel beneath the judgment. Is there fear, hurt, desire? See if you can connect to the feeling, not just the label. 4. Return to presence. Let the judgment go, even for a moment. Notice what is actually happening, what you see, hear, feel. 5. End your day with reflection. Before bed, recall a moment when you let go of a judgment. How did it feel? What did you discover? Repeat daily. Over time, the judgments lose their grip. Life becomes lighter, more spacious, more kind, beyond right and wrong. The poet Rumi wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." Zen points to that same field, a space of being, where all is allowed, where nothing is excluded, where the heart is at rest. This does not mean we abandon ethics or wisdom. It means we do not lose ourselves in the surface of things. We look deeper, past the labels, past the stories, into the living mystery of each moment. When you live in non-judgment, the world becomes less hostile, people become less threatening, you become less afraid of yourself. You live with more curiosity, with more humility, with more wonder. Closing reflection. As we move forward, carry this invitation. Can you meet yourself, others, and each moment with less judgment and more presence? Can you allow life to be, without always needing to fix, label, or compare? Non-judgment is not a destination, but a path of peace, a path of true liberation. As we continue this journey, we will explore how living in the present moment with open awareness and non-judgment becomes the ultimate ground for inner peace and joy. But for now, rest in the space beyond labels. Let go of right and wrong, good and bad. Let yourself, for a while, simply be. Here, now, enough. Awakening to the gift of now. There is a quiet miracle that is always available, yet so often overlooked: the present moment. All of Zen, all of Buddhist wisdom, ultimately points us back to this right here, right now. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. It is the ground of freedom, the source of joy, the doorway to peace. Yet most of us live elsewhere. We wander in memory, we project into the future, we replay conversations, we anticipate what might go wrong. Our bodies are here, but our minds are scattered across time and space. We live as if life is always just ahead of us, or already slipping away. Zen invites us to awaken, to come home, to discover that the miracle is not in some distant possibility, but in the very heart of this breath, this sound, this sensation, the illusion of past and future. The mind is a marvelous storyteller. It spins elaborate tales about what was and what might be. It constructs identities out of memory. It fabricates anxiety out of possibility. But look closely. The past is gone, a memory, a story, an echo. The future has not yet arrived. A guess, a hope, a fear. Only the present is real. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "The past is already gone, and the future is not yet here. There is only one moment for you to live, and that is the present moment." This does not mean we forget the past or fail to plan for the future. It means we see their true nature. Useful tools, not places to live. The past can teach, the future can inspire, but only the present can liberate. Why we resist the present? If the present moment is so precious, why do we resist it? Why are we so often restless, distracted, unsatisfied? Part of it is habit. The mind has been trained to seek, always looking for something more, something better, something safer. We are conditioned to believe that fulfillment lies out there, somewhere in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next escape. Even our suffering is often a strategy for not being present, ruminating on pain from the past, worrying about pain in the future. Sometimes we avoid the present because it contains discomfort, boredom, grief, anxiety, restlessness. We imagine that by leaving the moment, we can escape pain. But in truth, running from the present only multiplies suffering. Zen teaches a gentle but radical truth. Whatever you are avoiding is only asking to be met. Returning to now, a practice. The present moment is not something you have to create. It is always here, quietly waiting for your attention. The practice is to return, again and again. Here is a simple exercise. 1. Pause. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, stop for just a moment. 2. Feel your body. Notice the sensation of your feet on the floor, the breath moving in and out, the gentle weight of your hands. 3. Notice your senses. What do you see, hear, smell, taste, touch? Let the senses anchor you in the now. 4. Acknowledge thoughts. Let them pass. If a thought arises about the past or future, silently say, thinking, and gently return your focus. 5. Breathe. Take a slow, mindful breath, feeling it fill your body, and then release. This is not an escape from life's difficulties. It is a way to meet them directly, with clarity and compassion. The power of present. When you are present, everything changes. The mundane becomes sacred. Washing dishes is no longer a chore, but a meditation. Walking is no longer just transit, but a dance. Eating is not rushed, but savored. Listening is no longer waiting to reply, but truly hearing. Presence brings color to life. It deepens relationships. It reveals beauty in the ordinary. It heals, because it is the antidote to the loneliness of separation. Zen Master Dogen wrote, "If you cannot find the truth right where you are, where else do you expect to find it?" Meeting pain in the present. One of the greatest gifts of living in the present moment is the ability to meet pain, physical or emotional, without resistance. When pain arises, the mind quickly adds stories. This will never end. Why me? What if it gets worse? These stories compound the pain, adding fear and resentment. But if we bring mindful attention to the pain just as it is, right now we may discover it is bearable, even workable. We feel the sensation, breathe with it, allow it to be present. Sometimes we find that the pain is not as solid or permanent as we thought. This is not about masochism or passivity. It is about healing the suffering that comes from fleeing or fighting what already is. Meeting joy in the present. Joy is also most alive in the present. When we are present, we are available to the small wonders: the sunlight through leaves, the laughter of a child, the warmth of tea, the quiet comfort of being. Joy is not something to chase. It is something to notice. When we are present, we stop comparing, stop wishing for more, stop believing happiness is elsewhere. We become receptive, and in that receptivity, life surprises us. Letting go of the second arrow. The Buddha spoke of the 2 arrows. The first is the inevitable pain of life: illness, loss, disappointment. The second arrow is the suffering we add: resistance, resentment, fear, and regret. The present moment offers refuge from the second arrow. In the now, there is just the sensation, just the feeling, just the breath. Without the overlay of story, we find peace, even in difficulty. Presence in relationships. Being present is the greatest gift we can offer to others. To listen without distraction, to see someone as they are, not as we wish them to be. To hold space for pain or joy, without judgment or hurry. Most misunderstandings arise from absence. When we are present, we connect heart to heart, moment to moment. We stop rehearsing our reply and start listening. We stop defending and start understanding. Presence creates intimacy, even in silence. Presence is practice, not perfection. No one lives in the present moment all the time. The mind will wander. That is its nature. The practice is not to eliminate wandering, but to return. When you notice you've drifted into thought, into worry, memory, fantasy, simply pause and come back. This is not failure. This is the path. Every return is an act of awakening. Every return is a celebration, a life of now. To live in the present moment is not to give up plans or dreams. It is to root yourself in reality and let your actions arise from presence. You can plan from presence, remembering that the future is always uncertain. You can learn from the past without being trapped by it. But always, you return to now. Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki said, "When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you." A day of mindful living. Here is a way to structure a day around presence. Morning. Upon waking, take 3 mindful breaths. Feel your body, your aliveness. Meals. Eat slowly, tasting each bite. Notice the colors, smells, textures. Work. Do one thing at a time. Give it your full attention, even for 5 minutes. Breaks. Pause. Feel your breath. Look outside. Stretch. Relationships. When speaking, listen. When listening, be present. Put away your phone, if only for a few minutes. Evening. Reflect on 3 moments you were truly present. Feel gratitude. Let your day be a string of nows, each one a pearl of presence. Obstacles to presence and how to meet them. Common obstacles arise. Restlessness, boredom, painful emotions, urges to distract. Meet each with gentle awareness. Notice, name, breathe, return. Forgive yourself. Start again. Presence is not a performance, it is an invitation. The invitation is always open. The mystery of now. Finally, living in the present moment opens us to mystery. When we stop overlaying reality with judgment and story, we begin to experience wonder. The world becomes strange again, alive, miraculous, unknowable. A Zen master was once asked, "What is enlightenment?" He answered, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." This is not a puzzle. It is a poem of now. Closing reflection. Sit quietly. Feel your breath. Notice your body. Listen to the sounds around you. See if you can rest in the simple miracle of this moment. You do not need to change anything. You do not need to be anywhere else. You are here. You are alive. This is enough. As we continue our journey, we will explore the art of finding silence in chaos to return to presence, even when life is noisy and full. But for now, let this moment be a homecoming. Now, now, now. Again and again, the world begins. The still point within the storm. There is a Zen story about a young monk who comes to his teacher, agitated and weary. "The world is so noisy, so overwhelming. My mind is always running. How can I find peace?" The teacher pours a cup of tea and lets it overflow, the hot liquid spilling onto the table. "This is your mind," the teacher says, "full of noise, always spilling over. Until you learn to empty your cup, you cannot taste the tea." In our modern world, chaos feels inescapable. The relentless buzz of notifications, the noise of traffic and news, the pressure of deadlines, and the swirl of emotion and thought. Even when we retreat to nature or solitude, we often find that the greatest noise is not outside but inside our racing minds, our restless hearts, our unending self-talk. And yet, Zen assures us, silence is always available, not as the absence of sound, but as the presence of stillness, not outside us, but within. Chaos is not the enemy. We often believe that peace will arrive when our circumstances finally become quiet, when work slows down, when the house is empty, when we are finally alone. But life rarely cooperates. Chaos is not a temporary condition, it is part of the fabric of existence. To wait for outer calm is to postpone peace forever. Zen offers a different perspective. Don't wait for the world to quiet down. Find the silence that is here, even amid the noise. There is a story of a Zen master who was known for his profound serenity. When asked his secret, he replied, "When it's noisy, I let it be noisy. When it's silent, I let it be silent." The secret was not the external environment, but the internal response. This is the paradox. True silence is not fragile. It is not easily disturbed. It is resilient, like the depths of the ocean beneath the waves. The nature of inner silence. What is inner silence? It is not just the absence of thought. It is the space in which thoughts, feelings, and sounds arise and pass. It is awareness itself, spacious, unmoved. Inner silence is like the sky untouched by the passing weather. Thunder rumbles, rain falls, clouds gather and break, but the sky remains. When we meditate, we do not aim to suppress noise or erase thought. Instead, we rest in the awareness that notices. We become the sky, not the weather. This shift is subtle but profound. We stop seeking perfect conditions and begin to trust the silent center that is always available. Practices for silence in chaos. Listening to sound as sound. When the world is noisy, try this. Instead of resisting the sound's traffic voices, the hum of machines, listen without judgment. Let the sounds come and go in awareness, like waves on the shore. Notice the tendency to label or react. "I wish it were quiet. I can't meditate in this." Instead, see if you can simply listen. Feel the texture of the sound, its rise and fall. Let sound be sound, without story. In this way, noise becomes a meditation object. You discover that silence is not destroyed by sound, it is revealed by it. 2. Returning to the breath. Chaos often pulls us into the mind worry, planning, remembering, anticipating. The breath is an anchor. No matter how loud or busy things are, you can always return to a single breath. Try this practice in the midst of noise. Pause. Take a slow breath, in and out. Feel the air move through your body. Let the breath be enough. Even one mindful breath is a return to stillness. Zen, the pause. When life feels overwhelming, practice pausing, even a few seconds. Notice the urge to react, to fix, to speed up. Instead, stop. Feel your body. Take a breath. In the pause, notice the space that opens up the silence between the notes. This is the still point within chaos. 4. Letting thoughts be. The mind, too, is noisy. Thoughts clamor for attention, like children in a playground. In meditation, thoughts will come, lists, memories, judgments, worries. Rather than fighting them or following them, let them be. Notice each thought as a cloud passing through the sky of awareness. You do not need to engage, argue, or suppress. Just watch. As you rest in this way, the space between thoughts becomes more apparent. Silence is not the absence of thought, but the presence of awareness. Finding stillness in action. Zen is not only about sitting still. It is about finding silence amid movement. Washing dishes, driving, walking in a crowded city edge can be a gateway to presence. When the mind wants to flee the noise, bring it back to the body. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the motion of your hands. Listen to the rhythm of movement. Stillness is not about freezing life. It is about being fully present so that even action becomes spacious. The heart of silence. Why does silence matter? Not just for peace, but for clarity. In silence, we see ourselves honestly. In silence, we meet what is real, our longing, our pain, our joy. In silence, creativity and insight arise. Many of the world's wisdom traditions honor silence as the doorway to truth. It is in silence that the heart speaks, that intuition whispers, that compassion deepens. When we fill every moment with noise, we lose touch with this deeper wisdom. We become strangers to ourselves. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It is the fertile ground in which understanding and healing grow. Silence and compassion. Sometimes, chaos is emotional rather than auditory. Old wounds surface, grief flares, fear rages. In these moments, silence becomes compassion. To sit with your own pain, not to analyze or judge, but to hold it in the vastness of silence is a radical act of love. You are saying to your suffering, you too belong. You too are welcome. This silent presence is also the greatest gift we can offer others. To listen without interrupting. To be with someone in their struggle without trying to fix or fill the space with advice. To sit in shared silence is to say, I am with you. You are not alone. Silence amid the world's noise. The world will always be noisy. There will always be crises, demands, uncertainty. Zen does not ask us to ignore suffering or retreat from the world. It asks us to engage from a place of stillness. When you find silence within, you become a refuge for others. Your presence calms, not because you have all the answers, but because you embody the peace that is possible, even now. A daily practice, touching silence. You do not need a monastery to find silence. You can touch it wherever you are. Morning. Before reaching for your phone, sit quietly for a few breaths. Listen to the sounds of the morning. Feel the silence beneath them. During the day, pause between tasks. Take a silent breath. Let your shoulders drop. Notice the quiet that is always available. Evening. Before sleep, turn off screens. Sit or lie in darkness. Listen. Let the day settle. Let thoughts drift. Sink into the silence of night. Over time, you may find that silence is not rare. It is always waiting. It is the background of your life, available whenever you remember to turn toward it. Silence and mystery. The deepest truths cannot be spoken. They are felt in the silent spaces between words, beneath thoughts, within the heart. Zen teaches that enlightenment is not a concept, but an experience of reality as it is unfiltered, undivided, unspeakable. A famous Zen koan asks, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" The answer is not in words, but in silence, the silence that holds all questions and all answers. Letting silence guide you. As you move through life, let silence be your teacher. When you do not know what to do, be still. When you are overwhelmed, be still. When you are joyful, let silence deepen your gratitude. In silence, you will find that you are not alone. There is a presence, a wisdom, a peace that cannot be disturbed by any chaos. Closing reflection. Sit quietly for a few moments. Notice the sounds around you, the distant hum, the birds, the beating of your heart. Notice the silence in which these sounds arise. Feel the space between thoughts. Feel the stillness in your body. Rest in it. You do not need to force silence. You only need to remember it is always here. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the power of gratitude. How, by turning our attention to what is good and whole, we can nurture joy, resilience, and connection even in challenging times. But for now, let silence be enough. Let it nourish you. Let it guide you home, turning the heart toward enough. There is a Zen saying, "A person who is not thankful cannot be truly at peace." In a world endlessly pushing us to want more, do more, become more, gratitude is the gentle, subversive act of stopping to notice. What is already here? What is already good? What have I been given right now, without having to earn it or achieve it? Gratitude is not just a fleeting emotion. It is a daily practice, a way of seeing, a way of relating, a way of living. It transforms what we have into enough. It turns meals into feasts, strangers into friends, ordinary days into sacred gifts. And in the Zen tradition, gratitude is both an antidote to suffering and a foundation for awakening. The mind's habit of more. The human mind is wired for dissatisfaction. Evolutionarily, we are tuned to notice lack, to scan for danger, to plan for what's missing. This is useful for survival, but it comes at a cost. We so easily overlook abundance, safety, and joy. The mind tells us, if only I had more success, more love, more time, more wisdom, then I could rest. Grain. This habit of more keeps us perpetually discontent. It blinds us to the blessings woven through every day. And, perhaps most painfully, it separates us from ourselves, from others, and from life itself. Zen invites us to step out of this trance not by forcing positive thinking, but by waking up to what is already present. Gratitude is awareness. Gratitude is not a denial of difficulty or pain. It does not require you to pretend everything is perfect. Rather, it is a practice of inclusion. It asks, even in the midst of challenge, what is also true? What is also good? What remains unbroken? This is the wisdom of the Zen meal chant, recited before eating. 70. Two labors brought us this food. We should know how it comes to us. As we receive this offering, let us consider whether our virtue and practice deserve it. As we desire the natural order of mind to be free from clinging, we must be free from greed. We take this food to sustain our life. No. Each bowl of rice is the result of countless hands, farmers, rain, sun, cooks, ancestors. Each breath is a miracle of air, lungs, time. Gratitude is awareness that nothing is solitary, nothing is owed, everything is gift. Cultivating the habit of thanks. If you want to cultivate gratitude, start with the simplest things. Before rising in the morning, notice you are alive. Your heart is beating. You can feel the softness of the sheets. Even on days of sadness or struggle, these small facts remain. As you move through your day, try to notice 5 things, no matter how small, that you appreciate. The warmth of a cup of tea, the laugh of a child, the body's ability to walk, a kind word, the green of leaves after rain. Let each noticing be a small pause, a breath, a silent thank you. Write them down, speak them aloud, let them accumulate. Over time, gratitude becomes a habit, a posture of the heart. It becomes harder to take things for granted. It becomes easier to meet life with humility and awe. Gratitude and contentment. There is a close relationship between gratitude and contentment. When you are grateful, you see what is good. When you see what is good, you are less hungry for what is missing. This does not mean you stop growing, dreaming, or acting. but it means you stop postponing happiness. You begin to notice that enough is not a moving target, it is already here, quietly waiting for your attention. The Buddha spoke often of santuthi, or contentment, as a crucial virtue. He taught that desire is endless. The craving of a person who lives for pleasures grows like a creeper. They run from life to life, like a monkey seeking fruit in the forest. But contentment is the monkey finding rest, the heart coming home. Gratitude in difficulty. What about when life is hard? When loss arrives, or illness, or grief? Gratitude does not require you to be grateful for the pain, but to be grateful in the pain. Ask, what supports me, even now? Maybe it is the love of a friend, the steadiness of breath, the kindness of a stranger, the beauty of a tree. Maybe it is simply the chance to feel it all. There is a story from Zen about a master who was asked, "What is the secret to happiness?" He replied, "Good judgment." The student asked, "How do you get good judgment?" The master said, "Experience." How do you get experience? Bad judgment. Even our mistakes, our failures, our wounds become sources of gratitude, teachers that bring humility, compassion, growth, gratitude and interconnection. In Zen, gratitude is not just personal, it is relational. The self is not a separate entity, but an ever-changing node in a web of causes and conditions. The rice you eat is the rain, the sun, the farmer, the earthworms, the history of your ancestors, the labor of countless beings. To practice gratitude is to remember your place in this web, to feel your connection to all life. This dissolves the illusion of separation, and with it, the loneliness and isolation that so often fuels suffering. Dogen Zenji wrote, "To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things." When you practice gratitude, the boundaries of self begin to blur. Everything becomes part of your story. Gratitude as humility. Gratitude is also an act of humility. It is a recognition that so much of what sustains us is outside our control, given, not earned. You did not create your body. You did not invent language. You did not arrange the stars or command the sunrise. Every day is a gift, every breath a marvel. To remember this is to bow to the mystery of existence. Humility opens the heart. It makes us more generous, more forgiving, less obsessed with being right or first or best. A practice, the evening bowl. Try this simple practice. Each evening, take a bowl or any small container. For every moment of gratitude you can recall from your day, place a pebble, bean, or bead in the bowl. Watch as the bowl fills over time. On difficult days, hold the bowl in your hands. Let its weight remind you there is always something to be grateful for. Gratitude as a response to suffering. There will always be reasons to complain, to grieve, to wish things were different. But there will also always be reasons for gratitude. The practice is to widen the lens, to hold both. Azrumirot, wear gratitude like a cloak, and it will feed every corner of your life. This is not a call to ignore injustice or accept harm. Gratitude is not complacency. It is a foundation of strength, a resource to draw on as we face life's challenges. It is what allows us to keep our hearts open, even as we strive to heal what is broken. Gratitude in relationship. When you express gratitude to others, relationships deepen. Take time to thank those who help you, family, friends, colleagues, even strangers. Let them know their efforts are seen. Gratitude dissolves entitlement and builds trust. It turns obligation into joy, exchange into generosity. Obstacles to gratitude. Common obstacles include the habit of comparison. They have more, I have less. The pressure of perfection. It's not enough. The shadow of resentment or envy. The speed of modern life. Always rushing, never pausing. When these arise, notice them with kindness. Return to a single breath, a single noticing. Gratitude is not a feeling to chase, but a reality to recognize. The transformative power of gratitude. Over time, gratitude transforms the mind. Neuroscience has shown that regular gratitude practice rewires the brain, making us more optimistic, resilient, and joyful. It strengthens the immune system, lowers stress, and increases empathy. More deeply, it transforms the heart. Gratitude turns the mind from scarcity to abundance, from fear to love. from complaint to celebration, gratitude and awakening. The ultimate gratitude is for life itself, not as we wish it to be, but as it is. The Zen master bows to the stone as much as to the flower, to winter as much as to spring. The awakened mind sees that everything, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, birth and death, is worthy of gratitude. Because everything is part of the whole, everything is a doorway to presence. Closing reflection. Sit quietly for a moment. Place your hand on your heart. Ask gently, what am I grateful for right now? Don't force an answer. Let it arise. Maybe it's the air, the light, the chance to begin again. Maybe it's the memory of a friend, the taste of tea, the feeling of being alive. Let gratitude fill you, softly. Let it ease your burdens, brighten your seeing, connect you to everything. As we move forward, our journey will bring us to the path of inner peace, how gratitude, acceptance, and all our practices can converge in the discovery that true peace is not elsewhere, but always, already here. But for now, let this be enough. Thank you, life. Thank you, heart. Thank you, now. Dwelling where nothing can be taken away. If you ask 100 people what they truly want, beneath all the layers of ambition and longing, you will hear a common answer: peace. Not just a moment's relief, but a deep, lasting inner peace, one that is steady regardless of outer storms. It is the silent yearning behind our endless striving, the dream that rests in the shadow of every goal. And yet, for many, inner peace remains elusive, via horizon that moves as we approach, a promise always delayed until after some problem is solved. Zen, in its gentle and sometimes startling way, points us toward a liberating truth. Inner peace is not found by rearranging outer conditions, but by transforming our relationship to them. Peace is not an achievement, it is an awakening. It is not hidden in the future, it is available in the depths of now. The mirage of conditional peace. Modern life offers endless formulas for peace. Organize your life, optimize your health, fix your relationships, accumulate enough money or respect or security, and only then, perhaps, you can relax. But even when these conditions are met, peace proves fragile. A single unexpected event, a diagnosis, a betrayal, a market crash can shatter it. The mind tells us, when everything is finally under control, then I'll be at peace. But the very nature of life is change, uncertainty, and impermanence. We are searching for stillness on the surface of the ocean, when the real peace is found at the depths. Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck wrote, "Our life is like a turbulent river. If we spend our time trying to still the water, we fail. Instead, we learn to rest at the bottom, letting the current flow above." True inner peace is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of steadiness amid challenge. The roots of restlessness. What keeps us from peace? Restlessness, dissatisfaction, the itch for something else. The Buddha called this dukkha, the basic unsatisfactoriness of life, when lived from craving and aversion. The mind is constantly seeking what is missing and resisting what is present. We chase after pleasure, achievement, approval, and control, thinking they will quiet the mind. But as soon as we obtain them, the mind grows restless again. Peace does not come from having what we want. It comes from wanting what we have, from meeting each moment as it is. The art of allowing. To walk the path of inner peace, we must become artists of allowing. Allowing life to be as it is, ourselves to be as we are, and others to be as they are. Allowing does not mean we are passive or indifferent. It means we drop the inner fight, the war with reality. This is acceptance in action. As the previous chapters have explored, acceptance is not resignation. It is presence. It is saying, this is what's here. Can I meet it with openness? The Zen approach to inner peace is not to force calmness or suppress difficulty, but to turn toward our experience with curiosity and kindness. When irritation arises, allow it. When sorrow stirs, allow it. When joy blooms, allow it. Meet each with the same even gaze, the same soft heart, returning to the present. Inner peace cannot be found in the future or the past. It is discovered only in presence. Every time you return to the now, you return to peace. The mind may protest, but this moment is imperfect. I am anxious, or bored, or hurting. But the practice is not to perfect the moment, but to be with it. Presence itself is peace. The more fully you inhabit this breath, this step, this task, the more the storm of longing subsides. Try this now. Close your eyes. Feel your breath. Notice thoughts and feelings without changing them. Whisper inwardly, peace is here now. Notice even a hint of softness, of quiet beneath the surface. Letting go as the doorway. Much of our unrest comes from clinging to outcomes, to old stories, to the illusion of control. Inner peace is found when we let go, as explored in earlier chapters. Letting go is not losing. It is freedom. It is setting down the burden of having to manage everything, of having to be someone special, of having to know what's next. It is trusting that you can meet whatever comes, that you are enough, as you are, right now. The paradox of effort. One of the subtle traps on the spiritual path is seeking peace as another form of striving. We turn meditation or mindfulness into one more self-improvement project. We chase after peace, only to become more anxious about not having it. Zen teaches the paradox. Peace cannot be forced. It arises when we stop trying to manufacture it and instead relax into being. Dogen Zenji put it this way: to be in harmony with the wholeness of things is not to have anxiety over imperfections. Let your practice be simple. Breathe, sit, walk, notice the world. Let things be as they are. Finding peace in difficulty. What about when life is truly hard? When pain, loss, or injustice arises? Inner peace does not mean indifference or detachment. It means being rooted. It means feeling pain without drowning in it, caring without clinging, acting from love rather than from fear. When hardship comes, acknowledge it honestly. Let the heart break if it must, but do not abandon yourself. Hold yourself gently as you would a child. Remember that peace is not elsewhere. It is the ground you can return to again and again, even as you grieve or rage or act. There is a Zen saying, when you walk, just walk. When you cry, just cry. To be fully present with your experience, even your suffering, is the essence of peace. Living from the ground of peace. The greatest gift of inner peace is that it transforms how you move in the world. When you are not constantly fighting for or against life, you become more present, more kind, more courageous. Decisions arise from clarity, not from fear. Compassion flows more easily. You are less reactive, more responsive. You become a source of steadiness for others, a calm presence amid turmoil, a gentle witness in a noisy world. A practice for inner peace. Here is a daily practice to nourish inner peace. 1. Morning grounding. Upon waking, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Place a hand on your heart. Feel your breath. Whisper, may I dwell in peace. R. Midday pause. In the midst of your busiest hour, stop. Close your eyes. Notice sounds, sensations, feelings. Breathe deeply 3 times. Remember, peace is available now. 3. Evening letting go. Before bed, reflect on the day. Acknowledge moments of unrest. Forgive yourself. Release what you cannot change. Thank yourself for showing up. Repeat this ritual daily. Over time, you will notice the peace you seek is not far away. It is always here, beneath the waves. Obstacles to inner peace. Some common obstacles arise. Perfectionism. I should be peaceful all the time. Self-criticism for feeling anxious or sad. The belief that peace depends on outer circumstances. The habit of constant doing, never being. Meet each with patience. Remember, you are practicing peace, not performing it. The deepest peace. Ultimately, Zen teaches that the deepest peace is beyond all opposites. It is the peace that does not depend on any condition, the peace that is the nature of awareness itself. This peace is not felt as an emotion, but known as a truth. It is the stillness that holds all movement, the silence beneath all noise, the spaciousness that cannot be taken away. Dogen wrote, Enlightenment is intimacy with all things. To be intimate with life as it is without demand, without resistances, to dwell in peace. Closing reflection. Sit quietly, feel the breath, notice the heart, whisper softly, peace is not given by the world, peace is not taken by the world, peace is what I am. Let this truth settle in your bones. As we move forward, we will explore how to bring Zen into the small acts of daily life, how to wash dishes, answer emails, greet a stranger, all from the ground of presence and peace. But for now, rest here. Let peace be enough. Let it carry you. Let it be your true home. Washing dishes, answering emails, living the path. Zen is sometimes imagined as something reserved for mountain hermits or meditation halls, a world apart from the mess and bustle of daily living. But the heart of Zen beats not in grand retreats or moments of enlightenment, but in the gentle discipline of presence, repeated again and again in the ordinary acts of life. Real Zen is not an escape from the world. It is an invitation to live fully in it, awake, compassionate, grounded, and open. When we practice Zen in everyday life, we discover a profound and liberating truth. Every moment is sacred. Every act is an opportunity to wake up. Each breath, each word, each step is a chance to return home to ourselves, to awareness, to peace. The myth of special moments. One of the great illusions on the spiritual path is that insight or transformation only comes in special moments, in the cushion, in silence, on retreat, or in the presence of a wise teacher. But Zen teaches that there are no ordinary moments. There are only moments we attend to and moments we sleepwalk through. Dogen Zenji, the great Japanese master, wrote, "When you walk, just walk. When you eat, just eat." It sounds simple. It is simple, but it is also incredibly profound. To really just walk without planning the future or replaying the past. To just eat, feeling the warmth, tasting the flavor, noticing the movements of hand and mouth. To do anything with full presence is to enter the heart of Zen. Washing the dishes as practice. Take washing the dishes. Most of us treat this as a chore to rush through so we can get on to real life. We wash while thinking, planning, or listening to something else. But what if, instead, you let washing the dishes be the whole universe? Feel the warmth of the water on your hands. Notice the weight of the plate, the slippery texture of the soap, the gentle sound of water flowing. Breathe. Slow down. If thoughts arise, notice them, then return to the sensation of your hands, the presence of your body. This is meditation in motion. This is Zen embodied. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "While washing the dishes, one should only be washing the dishes. If while washing the dishes we think only of the cup of tea that awaits us, thus hurrying to get the dishes out of the way as if they were a nuisance, then we are not alive during the time we are washing the dishes. In fact, we are completely incapable of realizing the miracle of life while standing at the sink. Every dish washed with presence is a prayer, a bow to the sacredness of the moment." Zen and work. Answering emails with awareness. For many, the workday is a place of stress and autopilot. We answer emails, attend meetings, tick off to-do lists. The temptation is to get through it, to reach the end, to see work as separate from practice. But Zen asks us to bring the same quality of attention to an email as to a meditation bell. Before you open your inbox, pause. Feel your breath. Notice your posture. Read each message with awareness. As you type, feel your fingers moving, your thoughts forming into words, your intention to communicate. If you feel irritation or boredom, acknowledge it without judgment and return to the task. One mindful email is worth more than 100 rushed ones. In each, you are building the muscle of attention, the habit of presence. Listening deeply. The Zen of relationship. Zen is not a solitary path. Each encounter is an opportunity to practice. When speaking with another, see if you can truly listen without rehearsing your reply, without judging or fixing. Listen with your whole body, letting the words and silences enter you. When you speak, speak from presence. This kind of listening creates intimacy and trust. It is a gift to others and a healing for yourself. If difficult emotions arise, acknowledge them. Practice non-reactivity. Let the breath anchor you. Respond, don't react. If you make a mistake, offer yourself forgiveness and begin again. Walking, driving, waiting, everyday mindfulness. Zen is found in all the transitions and in-between moments of life. Walking. Instead of hurrying to your destination, feel your feet touching the ground. Notice your breath. Let your mind be as quiet as your step. Driving. Notice the feeling of your hands on the wheel, the body sitting, the flow of traffic. When impatience arises, smile at it and return to the present. Waiting. Whether at a red light or in a long line, let waiting be a bell of mindfulness. Instead of reaching for your phone, take 3 conscious breaths. Notice the world around you. Feel yourself alive. In all these moments, you are returning to the now, creating a life that is less about rushing and more about living. The Zen of eating. So much of modern eating is hurried, distracted, or mindless. The Zen meal is a ritual of awareness. Before you eat, pause to notice the color, texture, and smell of the food. Give silent thanks to all who helped bring this meal to your plate: the farmers, the rain, the earth. As you eat, taste each bite fully. Put down your utensil between bites. Chew slowly. Feel the nourishment entering your body. This practice brings gratitude, presence, and even joy to the simplest meal, turning toward difficulty. Of course, life is not always peaceful. The children argue, the sink clogs. A rude comment arrives in your inbox. Here too is your practice. When difficulty arises, notice your reaction. Pause. Feel the breath. Can you meet this moment with the same presence you brought to the dish, the email, the meal? Zen does not require you to suppress anger or fake calmness. It asks only for honesty and awareness. If you lose your temper, forgive yourself and begin again. If you feel sad, allow it, breathing with gentleness. With time, you may find that challenges become teachers, that everyday frustrations become invitations to wake up. Beauty in the ordinary. Zen finds beauty in the simplest things: a flower, in a crack of concrete, sunlight on a wall, the laughter of a friend, the silence after rain. When you live with presence, you begin to see this beauty everywhere. You stop waiting for special experiences and discover that the entire world is sacred, just as it is. Dogen Zenji said, "Enlightenment is intimacy with all things. Intimacy is not reserved for lovers or friends. It is how you meet the world. To be intimate with the ordinary is to live a life of wonder, letting go of perfection. Everyday Zen is not about doing everything perfectly. You will forget, you will rush, judge, distract, react. The practice is to notice, to forgive, to return, over and over. Zen is the art of beginning again, endlessly. If your practice becomes rigid or stressful, let it soften. Smile at your mistakes. Laugh at your forgetfulness. Each return is an act of awakening, a daily ritual for everyday Zen. Try this. Morning. Before you start your day, sit for 3 breaths. Set an intention. May I meet this day with presence. Midday. Choose one task, washing, emailing, walking, to do with full awareness. Let it be your bell. Evening. Reflect on one moment of presence and one of distraction. Offer both gratitude, rest. Let this simple rhythm ground you, bringing Zen to a busy world. Zen does not require a special place or time. You can practice in the noise of a city, the chaos of family life, the stress of work. Every environment is your monastery, every moment your teacher. When life feels too much, pause. Return to breath, body now. Find the still point within the turning world. As you practice, you may notice subtle changes. More patience in traffic, more ease in chores, more depth in relationships, more joy in the ordinary. This is the fruit of everyday Zen life, lived fully, courageously, kindly, right where you are. Closing reflection. Wherever you are, pause. Feel the air on your skin. Notice a single sound. Bring your attention to your breath. Let yourself be here, fully. Let this moment be enough. Zen is not somewhere else. It is right here, in the dishes, the emails, the laughter, the tears. It is the ordinary, made sacred by your attention. As we move into the final part of our journey, we will explore what it means to carry this practice forward, how to sustain Zen awareness as a lifelong path, and how to return, again and again, to the mirror of presence. But for now, rest in the beauty of the everyday. This is Zen. This is life. This is home. Walking the path, living the practice. Every journey ends where it begins. The Zen path is not a straight line, but a great circle, a spiral that brings us back again and again to the ordinary, to the breath, to this moment. Each time we arrive, we discover that the true treasure is not at some distant destination, but in the act of returning itself. This is the heart of Zen. Practice is never finished. Awakening is not a one-time event, but a continual process of remembering, forgetting, and remembering again. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing else to become. The path is not about escape, but about presence. It is about returning over and over to the mirror of awareness, to the intimacy of now. The spiral, not the ladder. Modern life often teaches us to think in terms of progresses, if spiritual growth were a ladder, and each step brought us closer to perfection. But Zen points us to a different metaphor, a spiral. We circle through the same lessons, the same emotions, the same joys and struggles, but each time we return with deeper understanding, greater gentleness, and more compassion. You may think, but I've already learned this. Then anger or sorrow or doubt visits again. You notice impatience or distraction or the old habit of judging yourself. It's easy to feel like you are failing or falling behind, but the truth is, this is the path. Zen is not about getting rid of difficulties forever, but about meeting them with increasing clarity. It's about softening, not hardening, relaxing, not tensing, opening, not closing. As Dogen Zenji wrote, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things. To be awakened by all things means to let every moment, pleasant or painful, peaceful or chaotic, be your teacher. Every return to presence is a deepening, not a detour. Letting go of endpoints. It's natural to want an endpoint, a final arrival, a moment when the work is done. But Zen teaches that real peace is found in giving up this search. The goal is not to graduate from practice, but to love the practice itself. The more we embrace the ongoingness of the journey, the more ease we find. We relax into our humanity. We stop measuring ourselves against imaginary standards. We see that the very desire to become someone is what obscures our true nature. Each return, each breath, each step, each act of attention is complete in itself. The practice of returning. How do we return in daily life? The answer is wonderfully simple, endlessly repeatable. Eins. Notice when you've wandered. The mind will drift, the heart will close, the body will tense. You'll get caught in thought, swept up in story, lost in reactivity. This is inevitable. R. Remember, the moment you notice, that is the moment of awakening. You remember the breath, the body, the now. 3. Return, gently. No scolding, no shame, just return. Let the breath anchor you. Feel the ground, look around, open your senses. 4. Begin again, over and over. With every return, the grooves of attention deepen. The heart becomes more resilient, the mind more spacious. This practice is lifelong. It is the art of beginning again, moment after moment, year after year, celebrating beginner's mind. In Zen, Shoshin, or beginner's mind, is a quality of openness, eagerness, and lack of preconceptions. It is the spirit of seeing everything as fresh, even the familiar. When we return to beginner's mind, we stop expecting life to fit our stories. We stop believing we know ourselves or others completely. This openness is the ground for learning, creativity, and compassion. Every day is a new day. Every moment is a chance to see differently. Suzuki Roshi said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few." Practice returning to beginner's mind, especially when you feel stuck, jaded, or weary. Let curiosity, not cynicism, lead the way. Sustaining the practice. How do you keep Zen alive through the years? Not by willpower alone, but by weaving small rituals and reminders into the fabric of daily life. A morning bow. Before you start your day, bow to the newness of this moment. A bell of mindfulness. Use ordinary sounds, phones, birds, laughter as bells to return to the present. A breath before speaking. Before replying, take a breath. Return to your center. A daily sitting. Even 5 minutes of stillness anchors the day. A reflection each night. Recall a moment of presence, Offer thanks for your practice. The form doesn't matter as much as the sincerity. The point is to keep returning, to keep nourishing awareness, dealing with setbacks and forgetfulness. There will be long stretches when you forget, when stress, fear, or habit take over. You will lose your temper, fall into distraction, or feel stuck in suffering. This, too, is part of the path. The great Zen teachers remind us, fall down 7 times, get up 8. The real measure of practice is not how long you can stay present, but how kindly you return. Forgiveness, not perfection, is the mark of true practice. When you fall away, use it as a moment of compassion. Laugh gently, begin again. The mirror of Zen. The image of the mirror is central in Zen. A mirror reflects everything, good and bad, without holding on or pushing away. It is clear, open, non-judgmental. When you practice returning, you become like the mirror to reflect all of life, without being clouded by it. Joy, sorrow, gain, loss, praise, blame all appear, all pass. The mirror remains. This is the true refuge, not in controlling the world, but in abiding as awareness itself, bringing practice into community. Zen is not a solitary journey. The support of others, friends, teachers, sangha, community, helps keep the fire of practice alive. When you falter, let others remind you to return. When you struggle, reach out. When you find joy, share it. Practice deep listening, generous giving, honest sharing. Let community be a mirror to a place where you see yourself more clearly. The fruit of lifelong Zen. What ripens from years of returning? Not a life free from pain, but a life more intimate with everything. Not a self that is fixed, but a self that is less rigid, more open, more compassionate. Over time, you may find more patience with yourself and others, more ability to pause before reacting, more appreciation for the ordinary, deeper resilience in difficulty, a sense of connection to all beings, and, perhaps most precious, a quiet trust that you can always return, that peace is never far, that you are, and always have been, enough. Leaving and coming home. The Zen poet Ryokan wrote, "If you want to find the meaning, stop chasing after so many things. The meaning is here in this very step, this very breath. You will leave home 1,000 times into distraction, desire, doubt, but you can always return. The path is patient, and so is the heart." Closing practice, a bow to the path. Right now, wherever you are, pause. Place your hands together in a gentle bow, not to an external master, but to the journey itself, to all the moments you forgot and all the moments you remembered, to the teachers seen and unseen, to the wisdom that brings you back, again and again to now. Take 3 mindful breaths. With each one, let go of striving. Rest in the simplicity of this moment. Whisper softly, "Here I am. I begin again. I am home." Looking forward. As we close this journey, know that the path continues. There will always be more forgetting, more returning, more learning. This is the endless gift of Zen, a path with no end, a practice that deepens forever. Let your days be filled with small acts of attention, small moments of presence, small returns to the heart of being. Zen is not a place to reach, but a way to travel. Thank you for walking this path. May your journey be gentle. May you return again and again. And may you know beyond all doubt that every return is a homecoming. This is Zen. This is life. This is the way. The journey we have traveled is, in truth, the journey each of us walks every day. A path from confusion to clarity, from striving to stillness, from separation to belonging. We have moved through stories of anxiety, longing, loss, and hope, explored the timeless wisdom of Zen, and the quiet revolution of simply being present. But as this journey concludes, Zen reminds us, there is no final destination. Each ending is merely another beginning. The practice continues, moment by moment, breath by breath. Perhaps the greatest gift Zen offers is the gentle but unshakable truth that peace is always available, not in some perfect future, but in the heart of now. It is not the world that must change for us to be free. It is our way of seeing, our willingness to return, our openness to what is. When we rest in awareness, when we meet life with curiosity and compassion, without clinging or judgment, the ordinary becomes luminous. The mundane reveals its hidden beauty. We see ourselves, and all beings, reflected in the clear mirror of presence. We have learned that true inner peace is not a static state, but a living relationship with reality. It is the art of allowing joy and sorrow, hope and fear, love and loss to arise and pass without losing our center. It is the soft strength of forgiveness, the daily practice of gratitude, the courage to accept impermanence, and the freedom of letting go. Each moment is an invitation to return to the breath, to the body, to the ever-renewing present. No one walks this path perfectly. We will forget and remember, lose our way and find it again. This too is practice. The important thing is not to judge our stumbles, but to return gently, patiently, endlessly to the mirror of Zen. In this returning, we find our truest home. As you go forward, may you carry the spirit of Zen in your daily life. May you remember that the dishes, the emails, the laughter and the tears are all sacred when touched with awareness. May you meet each moment with the tenderness of a beginner's mind. May you know that you are already enough, already home. This journey is yours now. Let the mirror of awareness guide you. Let your life be your practice. Let peace find you, here and now, again and again. For as long as you walk this earth, the end is the beginning. Return. Begin again.